What's up, fam? Welcome to the Flow State Outdoors podcast.
And I just can't live without you.
What do you mean? There's fucking 2 kilos in the boat.
Listen to me every time.
Way.
Read it out. What's it say?
When you carry all the grocery bags in one trip, and then is it?
Oh, it's like a picture of the red fingers.
Two
red fingers.
bright red. And I just messaged her being like, Jesus, this meme could be interpreted all sorts of bad. It looks like there's blood on her fingers. And I'm just like, without even reading, I was just like,
He's like, is there a non-dirty way to interpret this? Like,
yeah,
You cop a
You're
lot
the
of
sicko.
crazy DMs.
crazy.
Definitely should give you a mic. Eh?
he'll get one sooner or later.
Gonna have to plug another mic in.
Nah.
Just chime in with nuggets of gold every so often.
We copped that for the potty. We copped that for the potty. It was good. That little story was live.
Story. Now.
Yeah. We got it. No, you didn't say a name, so. But I'm pretty sure she listens to it, eh?
You did say the name.
Fuck. I should have started this way early. We were smacking so many good
Yeah,
stories.
we're going to have
out.
to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
But
We definitely are.
story's always better the second time around.
Yes.
like
Definitely
like
not.
jokes.
They're definitely not.
Just keep repeating them until they stick. That's it.
So we're here with Ben, Rennie, and Jai. How do you say your last name?
Kaartinen-Price.
Kaartinen-Price.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have bumped into Jai at boat ramps for like a few trips now.
Yeah, a couple.
Going diving with you. Well, you two have known each other for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Since
Why are you so quiet?
since first year undergrad, I think it was for me.
Yeah. Would it have been, was that 2018 or 2017 for you?
2017, I think.
Yeah.
It all started. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. All started in a fish dissection prac, and I heard you were a couple of benches over, and I overheard you talking about Ayden, the spot down on the New South Wales coast, and I just was like, is he talking about that spot too? And I've just swung around and just listened into the convo for the next 5 minutes, and I was like, this guy's a lord, and he dives a spot that I also dive, and I was like, we're gonna have to have a chat about this because we're on here.
So go back to you're both from Melbourne-ish.
Victoria. I was
Yeah,
down in
thereabouts.
the Otways,
Yep.
so down southwest a bit more.
I feel like a lot of people I podcast are from fucking Mexico, eh?
Who else?
Triggy.
Oh, Triggy, yeah.
yeah, you gotta get out
actually,
of there.
And there's a few people
Too
that
cold.
a few people that respond to a lot of the podcast stuff that are from Vic.
Yeah.
True.
Dreaming of getting out of there.
Well, yeah, living
It's all about
vicariously.
making the move.
Well, Triggy was West Coast, which
Yeah.
was where
That's where you're from.
Yeah.
So you've dived similar spots.
I haven't done a lot of West Coast. Jai's done a bit of peninsula stuff, where I grew up diving the peninsula with the club and comps and stuff. I hardly did any West Coast stuff really. I
Yeah,
never.
right. So you both grew up diving.
Yeah.
It was like the vibe when you were
Yeah,
kids. When did you start diving? You were a kid, weren't you?
I was real young. Yeah, Dad got me into it. We had a beach house on Port Phillip Bay, and there were a couple of little patches of reef just out off the straight walk off the beach. You're right onto them. And he used to take me snorkeling, looking for sea dragons and all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, it was real comfortable in cold water and snorkeling around. He used to tow me around on a boogie board, so I'd have most of my body out of the water, so I wasn't getting as cold. And he'd just be there, 100%. And he'd just be pointing out cool stuff, and then it sort of then we moved on to looking for abalone, because he'd done a little bit of that. Mostly when they were off camping, he'd go and get some abs and come back and cook them up for the crew. Ab diving was probably the first sort of form of harvesting.
What I don't explain that shit to me because I don't fully understand. I know what they are, but I don't fully understand all of the stuff you do down there. How long? Well, go back to you, Jai. How long have you been diving for?
It would be over a decade. I reckon I was probably 11 or 12 years old.
I didn't notice how lit your shirt was until just
Thanks,
now.
mate.
Sesh shirt.
It is a set shirt.
It actually used to be bigger and it shrunk in the wash, but I'm rolling with it anyway. But yeah, I reckon 11 or 12 years old, I was really keen fisherman. Not not so good at catching like you guys, but yeah, we used to get down to the beach, and one day we went down. It was a really low tide, and spotted this thing, this big shell in a rock pool, decent sized abalone. Had my pocket knife on me, and I was like, I'm going to get that thing and eat it for dinner. So we got it, took it home, ate it. Thought it was like pretty cool, pretty exciting, catching something yourself and eating it. And we were onto it from then. And we'd go down there whenever the low tides, really low tides were happening. We'd go down and we'd just go in ankle deep water and look for them. We'd just get deeper and deeper and deeper. And one day I was stuck my head in under a rock looking at abs, and there's a crayfish sitting in there. And I was like, I got to grab this thing. So like no gloves or anything. Started bare hugging, wrestling the thing. Came away with like 30 odd cuts on my hands, and
Like
it was
crayfish.
Yeah, it was just on legal, and so been trying to do the right thing. I was like, I better put it back, even though I was missing a few legs. Like, put it back, and as it turned out, not too long after that, we just kept going deeper and deeper until we got onto them, and it's just been loved it ever since that.
Yeah, right. Fucking.
You did well to find a cray straight out. It took me a fair while, like up through my diving years, to first even see them. So I guess like West Coast's pretty they're pretty prevalent down there.
Yeah, we would dive in. We just go the most remote, rough spot you can find and find a way to get in the water. So we were fortunate to dive some pretty good spots, and it took a few trips to find one, but from there we were hooked, and we were like, let's keep looking for these things. And then you start seeing fish, and you're like, I got to buy a gun. And it just escalates from there.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Do you remember your first cray?
Yeah, vividly. My first ever cray.
I don't even need to be here for this podcast, eh?
It's just when we move on to
just start going.
Just turn my mic off and sit and listen.
we move on to how to chase jacks. You can chip in with your
With Jack's on speed.
first cray. Dad and I had teed up to go down to a spot, pretty well known spot in Vic. We rocked up there, and there's a fun run, like a trail run or like a fun run on, and the car park's like packed. There's people everywhere. So we were just like, nah, let's get out of here. Went to a plan B spot and actually bagged out on crays. Like I'd never caught a cray before, and ended up swimming into Dad with two of them. Had one in the catch bag, couldn't fit the second one in there, basically just swum it in like in a headlock.
So you're like a child prodigy, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, you just...
I'd struggled to find, like I looked for probably close to like a year, but in the wrong spots. Like I thought I had an idea of where like what situation you needed and what sort of setting. And I was just covering just dead ground, just like, and in an area that probably sees like a lot of divers. So if there was ever a cray there, it was probably gone pretty quick.
Yeah.
But there's a photo I've got saved in my camera roll of standing on the beach, like holding up two crays. Like that was like, one of the biggest highlights of diving days ever was coming back to, and I remember holding him up in the water, still like a couple of 100 meters out, and Dad had the binos on the rocks, and I can just see him just like fist pumping as I'm holding two crays out of the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the turning point where, like it was cemented in your being, like for life? Was it one of those things where like fishing for me was like a slow burn? Like I've as long as I can remember, I've fished, which is why it's like cemented in who I am.
Yep.
Or was it one of those things where you like try a heap of shit and then you're like something happened and you're like, fuck, that's me forever?
I probably can't put it down to like a specific occasion or a day or anything like that.
So probably the whole.
It was probably more a location, and it was actually as.
Nah, give it this.
Oh, so it's Ayden. So it's a place I actually heard I overheard him talking about in that uni prac, and I was like, man, Ayden, that's my zone. I love that spot, and that like it would be. We used to do big family like camping trips there, and we'd just go like any seafood you could possibly think of was like on the menu. It was like you get abs off the rocks, you'd fish off the beach, you'd go and spearfish, you'd get oysters, like abalone, like everything.
Everything does taste better down there, because like.
There's better variety down there. Like up here, you've got things like mud crabs and prawn. Oh no, we actually used to get prawns in Ayden as well. Yeah,
it is pretty good there.
The fish not so much. Like fish are just down there are kind of like a. There's not much variety to them unless you're like a really gun diver. Like learning in Vic, the fish are all quite similar.
Yep.
Everyone sort of you do have to work hard for them.
A few fish, and they're generally not very big.
Yeah.
So that's what crave. Yeah.
If you grow up like learning to dive up north, you're pretty spoiled.
How's the like like I think of abalone divers, and I also automatically think of like those dudes that dive down into like murk, but on scuba and great white sharks and shit. The moment I hear abalone shit, like is
it is like the commercial like side of things. It is a bit sketchy, but you can get like abalone, like Jai was saying, like they'll be in the shallowest of water. It's pretty like if you depends on the stretch of coastline and obviously the conditions that you dive in, but it's a pretty good like gateway into it, like learning how to like look for the right shape and how to read like the bottom and know what to look for. But like there's risks with it. You're in around like kelp and caves, and you can get stuck and that sort of stuff. So, but obviously they're a snail, so they're never going to run away from you. So it's sort of it's one of those things. It's like it's a pretty easy starting point. Like everyone who starts out learns how to find abs,
and they're pretty abundant. Like if you go to a half decent spot, you can usually get a feed of abs, even if the weather's fairly average. So it's a good starting thing to start off on. And on a good day, you might get a cray, but you'll always go home with some abs.
And they're delicious too.
They're all right.
I loved them. They were like a staple, like camp food for us. And I guess
what recipe spec? Give us some.
We used to just
faves.
Like slice them up really thin. If you imagine,
it's like a fucking. Basically,
if you think of like half a mango, so like if you imagine like taking the cheek off a mango, it's kind of like that. There's like a bit of like gristle, sort of tough stuff around the outside that you slice off, and you're sort of left with like basically like the cheek of a mango, and you slice that up really thin. Some people tenderize it as a big whole chunk, but we used to slice it really thin, and then hit it with like a meat tenderizer.
Yep.
And then like flash fried in a fry pan with like garlic and butter and chili, and it's like cooks in like about 30 seconds.
Yep.
It's pretty similar to squid, I reckon.
It is.
If
It's
you
like
haven't
richer
eaten,
squid.
yeah,
And garlic butter is pretty good.
you can't go wrong with that. You could
Panko
cook a
crumb's good.
thong in it basically, and it tastes good.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we ate a lot of abs, so we probably overdid it for a couple of years, and then after that, it was like, oh, all right, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm like that with crays, man. Like up here,
Yeah,
because they're fucking average at best. Just dropped the dog off. They're average at best, I reckon.
yeah,
don't-
it gets like that.
Like I've never had like gone to someone's house down south and eaten cray down there, or even like Northern Rock Lobster, like WA stuff. I've always gone to like a restaurant or something and eaten it properly. But the crays here are fucking. I've had them heaps of different ways, and
They taste just like prawn to me. Like
yeah,
when they're chopped up, I can't really tell them apart from prawn. But
they're a weird.
100% agree. I agree. Like southern, any red crays, like
Yeah.
you're on a winner there.
How good's this whiskey just quietly?
Really nice.
Get around it.
They were almost
Hirsch what? Huh? Me? Can't.
Yeah,
crays almost became like a bit of a not a commodity.
Ayden doesn't want a mic because he's shy.
Hardly.
Give him the mic, he reckons. Do you want to hook up? Do you want a mic? Yeah, she's shy.
Get him in on some of the stories because us three have done
Actually,
a couple. We've done like 2 or 3
stories.
trips together. There's some
Yeah.
very funny trips involving the three of us.
I'll time it until you boys start telling the story, and then I'll plug the mic in
easy.
and make a heap of noise.
But yeah, back to like southern crays. They were basically like we used to treat them a bit as like Christmas gifts. Like
Yeah,
when you think like at Christmas time, they get to like $150 a kilo at like some, which is
Holy.
ridiculous. When you think like a good cray is like 2 to 3 kilos.
What a fucking painted crays up here, like $40, $30.
I've never
I haven't
I've never
seen
even
them.
looked for them. Hey,
yeah.
not like in the markets or anything. Yeah, we used to give them to like neighbours or friends, or like you'd go out, you'd try and find a weather window a couple of weeks out from Christmas. And
There's like the brand name, like the distillery from the whiskey bottle is like in this weird script writing, and I can't read it properly. So I gave it to Will. He's Googling what the fuck it is. You can have a mic too, Will.
Google Translate.
Hirsch what? Hochstadters. Hochstadters. Low and slow rock and rye. Is it low and slow?
yeah,
Slow and low rock and rye.
sweet and smooth.
Rye whiskey. It's actually delicious.
It is. It's really nice.
There you go, Ados. Plug you in. You don't want one, eh? Too late now. You've talked it up.
He's going to be stitched up in some stories later, regardless. So he's
Yes, actually, we need the drunk Ayden at the beach story.
That's right.
That's happening. There you go.
But yeah, we did a lot of Christmas presents with the crays too.
yeah.
It's,
Find a weather window. Like couple of weeks out, and just start like chipping away at them, a couple in the freezer.
He's off it. Give us a test.
Hello, can you hear me?
Nope. I actually can't. Is your mic on? No, up top.
It's
Go up
black
higher.
switch.
Yeah.
Higher up on the shack.
You got to turn.
Yeah, really work it.
Is it on?
Hear me now?
Turn it off and on again.
I don't know.
Go back and forth real quick.
It won't turn on. Hang on. I'll sort that out. Keep telling your stories so that people actually don't turn this fucking podcast off. What did we get to? I lost track of everything.
Christmas time and Southern Rock Lobster.
Go to when you moved up here.
Yeah, that's when it all started to get pretty interesting, I reckon. What was you kind of got into like by the time we bumped into each other at uni, you'd sort of started to tap into a few things, like learning how to dive the tropics a little bit more successfully. I was still pretty new to it all. I'd got out a couple of times inshore. I'd never been to the reef spearing. Dove out of a couple of mates' tinnies and stuff that I'd met through uni, and was still sort of finding my feet up here. But I remember in that lab, you showed me a few bits of footage straight away.
Yeah.
And the first thing that blew my mind was you were diving the reef out of a jet ski. I remember thinking, like, this guy has some serious balls if he's going, like, I know in Vic diving off jet skis is sort of semi-common because most of it's pretty close to the coast, but yeah, it's probably a good starting point, the jet ski chronicles.
Yeah, no, it was good times with the jet ski.
Solo?
I'd usually take someone on the back with me. I'd do a bit of solo stuff in Victoria.
Right, we're back because I accidentally hit stop. And
Adding another mic.
I added another mic, so Ayden's on. So
Yo.
Welcome, Ayden.
So we're probably going to just like hear from Ayden all night now, and the boys won't get a breath in. But yeah. So
we got to
where did we get to?
jet ski missions.
Yeah,
up
so
north.
Yeah. What the fuck's to go with that?
Well, I was diving in Victoria and I was at uni. I was pretty broke, but I wanted a boat. Couldn't really afford anything that was suitable for the area, so I thought I'll give a jet ski a go. And yeah, I was really happy with it down there. Right for now, thanks.
You towed it up from Vic, yeah?
Yeah, so I towed it. I had a Subaru Outback, filled it up with everything, towed it all the way up, and
So for those that don't know, this is from West Coast Victoria to Townsville, North Queensland.
yeah, good 33-hour trip. Took a while, but yeah, and we got up here, and I'd taken it 40 k's offshore chasing tuna with a mate down in Victoria, which at the time we thought was pretty ballsy.
Actually, let's flag that for discussion
That's
too.
pretty legit. Just
Flag
quietly.
flag those big
Yeah.
tuna for discussion. Like, that's some way down the track too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
And so I looked on the map and I saw that the reef was 40 k's off Lucinda, and everyone was telling me, oh, it gets pretty rough out there up here, and I was like, come on, like
It's
we
not
got
like
like
down.
we got like 20 foot swell down in Victoria sometimes, and I was like, it doesn't get that rough up here, and I thought, yeah, it'll be right on a flat day. So we went up to Lucinda and went out, and yeah, got out there fine, went well, took extra fuel in the back, and then just kept going. I reckon we can go further and further, and yeah, we ended up out the back of Trunk, like 85 k's out on the jet ski.
Yeah, right.
And it got us back, so that was good. First,
Will's sitting here shaking his head like
first
you
trip
should have
out,
died long
Legit,
ago.
man. It's ballsy, eh?
yeah, I was so familiar with Victoria, but I really didn't know much up here, so I went out. Yeah, second trip out is when I shot my first fish, and I went out there, and there's so many fish up here, and a lot of them look pretty good, and I was like, I don't know what anything is. This is like
It is too. Like
this
you
is
can
gonna be
dive a
hard.
bommy, and then there's like fucking like those
A dozen different
where
species.
you boys have been diving, and you'd be able to like account for this because you were pretty new to the game too. Like you dive down, and then there's like a couple of trout, there's a moo, or there's a few spangos. Like it's when
Even
you
the
dive in
bait fish, you're like, they're all rainbow patterned, and they're all different
when you
shapes and
dive in
colours.
the
You
goons,
got
man, you can come across like you can hit a drop and lay down there and be like, fuck, what do I
aquarium,
shoot
like
here?
actual
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Melbourne
right.
aquarium spec.
yeah. So I got out there, and I was literally, I didn't know anything. I thought I need a system to figure out what I can shoot, and I was like, I reckon. Yeah, the only fish that are going to be like I can be confident I can shoot are the ones that are going to be real cagey. And so I was diving down and I was going on the sand, and most fish seemed pretty friendly. I was like, oh, who knows about them? And then I spotted this school coming in on the sand. It was a school of spangled emperor, and they were a little bit cagey. And I was like, oh, they look pretty tasty. Like I noticed this one fish hanging at the
You
back.
smack one spango, like first
Second trip out, it wasn't a spango. There was a fish at the back of the school, and he was being real cagey. And I was like, that
You
one,
know you're
that one
tasty.
definitely has something to hide. I was like, I reckon I'd be pretty safe with that. And so I dived down next to some branch coral, and I sort of looked away, angled away, and they came in. And that one at the back, he came forward enough, and I ended up going like lining up, getting the shot, and I managed to hit it, pulled it in. Awesome looking thing, like red colouring on it, big eye, real good size. Brought it in. I was like, fuck, I hope this thing's all right to eat and like legal. And got back and it was a moo. That was the first fish I shot on the reef. And yeah, I was pretty happy when I googled it and figured out what it was. I was like,
reads
oh, that's
all the
good.
YouTube comments that these are like one of the hardest fish to shoot in the tropics. Is just achieved goat status day one.
Yeah.
Peaked way too early. Didn't
But I think it was a bit lucky, but it worked out well. Like it definitely, that's one safe way to
Yeah,
know
but like
that-
you dove at like most people dive moo too, like deliberately dive moo.
without
Hiding
having
and
to.
looking away from them and fucking.
I took ages to figure. See, I was used to shooting fish like flathead or like leather jacket.
Straight over the top.
Straight. You can catch them with your hands half the time. Like, so I was used. First trip out the reef, I was like a kid in a candy shop, just seeing all these fish swimming around, and then chasing after them, thinking, oh, they'll just sit still and I'll close the distance and put a shot in them. Happy days. And then you don't account for the fact that the fish up here are just so much smarter. Clean water. They see it coming from a mile away, and it was like the steepest learning curve. Like the first few times diving the reef, just had to just like completely come back to basics.
Got
And
humbled.
100%. I got my ass handed to me a few times. And so yeah, those first few trips were actually out on the jet ski with Jai. We talked about lining a trip up and found some weather windows, and we made it out there on the ski. The first time was actually out off Townsville here, which is a considerable way compared to like most other places up and down the
What
coast.
is it like? What's the brewer?
We went to Lodeston, which is like 70-ish,
Yeah.
75.
sounds about right.
So that's the first reef off Townsville. And I just remember, so we were like, it was a pretty flat day. We boosted out there pretty quick. We actually saw a massive marlin free jump off the back of Maggie. We stopped for a toilet break, and probably like 100 and something kilo marlin free jumps, like stones throw off the back of the ski, and we just lost the plot.
Welcome to Queensland.
Yeah, it was like
Oh. I was like, I can hear it through the mics, and it's a fucking.
That's Ayden.
neighbours having
Is it a car? Is it a party?
I think it's a car.
Oh, we got ambiance. Ambiance.
someone's serenading us.
Tonight next door.
But
right.
so we were like boosting out over this like purple water, like the most crazy blue, and coming from Vic, like you don't really get that blue. And then in like the flick of a switch, we were just boosting over like 6 foot coral
How
flats.
good is that shit?
There's
Oh.
long toms and flying fish going everywhere. You can see like massive parrotfish just boosting, and this jet ski's just like
Also,
flying
you
over
both
the-
went out on the jet ski.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the back, like
Yes.
hanging onto him, and I just remember like laughing hysterically because the concept of like going over like 60 meters deep, and
The
then
concept of flogging out for a couple of hours.
and then
on
all of
the
a
back
sudden
of a
you
jet
can
ski is
stand
legit.
up. You can stand up in that water, and there's coral and fish life everywhere. Like off Vic, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and then you hit the shelf, and it's like nothingness. Whereas
Yeah.
out here, we were like 60 meters deep, and then boom. 6 foot over coral flats, and it was like the most insane like buzz I've ever had.
I agree. I was really surprising. Like you're going further and further out, and you're feeling like a little bit like this is a bit dangerous. And you get to the reef, and you're like, this is so safe.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable here. This
Yeah.
is nice. It's friendly.
Yeah.
And like with the jet ski, you don't have a prop to worry about, so you can boost over
Yeah,
like the
6
real
inches
shallow
of water,
stuff.
yeah.
It's a nice experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
we had to be pretty smart with gear storage and space
Yeah,
on there.
how does that work? Did you have like a pod on or something?
I put I just glued up some PVC on the back. Made
Yep.
I had
a
jerry
gun rack
can
with
on
jerry
one
cans.
side, had the gun, had the gear bag. I think I just used the front of the jet ski to put ice in there and use that like an esky. And yeah, it was pretty alright. for
That's
the reef
fucking
trips.
legit, man. Have you got any photos of that?
I would, yeah.
Oh, I've got.
Yeah, I need to
yeah,
get
there's some
some of that.
videos of it.
That's fucking loose.
Yeah. We did we went down to Bowen and we camped overnight on one of the islands down there off the jet ski.
we got
Bennett Island.
confident
we
way
loaded
too
it.
fast. We got way too confident way too fast. We did a couple of reef trips, shot a few trout, thinking, oh, we're pretty good at this. We know what we're doing.
That's fucking solid.
We're coming
right?
back from the reef with like 3 trout. Like we had no idea what we were doing.
That's still sick though.
Yeah. No,
We
Going
this
out there
is
and
fun.
hunting out of a jet ski.
We
that's wild.
decided we'd looked on the maps and we'd seen at a couple of islands off Bowen, and we were like, let's go and camp with the jet ski. We'll go and spear around it. We'll camp on the like overnight on that island. We'll come back the next day. So we like packed everything up, made the drive down the coast, launched it sort of like lunchtime. Got out there, mucked around a bit, and then we realised we didn't have dinner. So we're like, we've got about an hour or two of light left to try and like find a fish. Like pressure's on, we need to, like, we're hungry. So we've quickly like set up camp before it got dark, and we've just suited up and gone for a swim off the beach, off the sort of like coral, the fringing reef around the around camp where we'd set up. We could not find a fish to save ourselves.
It wasn't encouraging. We pictured this really picturesque, like full of fish life sort of spot, and we got in the water.
It had been flogged by a cyclone, hadn't it? A lot of
rubble.
the dead reef, it looked like it had just been like a building had just come down. It was a lot of just busted coral. We were talking about shooting fusies for dinner. That's how hungry we were. Like, it was grim.
Yeah, right.
And then the sun's going down. In the video that's on that island, you can literally see we're coming in as like the sun's dipping like below the water. We're about to swim up the beach, and then Jai just pulls through with a clutch trout, like basically off the shoreline, flogs a trout, and we were like, we're saved. We've got dinner. It's borderline dark. We're coming out of the water, like unsuiting, and we're like, right, we've got dinner. We're gonna have to let's get a fire going and start cooking trout. That was one of the best feeds I've ever had.
Yeah, that was good.
Is it because you were so hungry?
And just like
And
desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought we weren't going to get it, so we were pretty happy to have it.
The second little hurdle we faced was, when I say camp, I mean a tarp. And we're like, oh, we'll just sleep on the beach. Like, that's a thing. It wasn't. It wasn't a beach. It was all coral.
Oh.
So we had nothing really to sleep on. We found like a square, like 3-foot patch of sand, and we strung the tarp up between some rocks. Because on the jet ski, we just didn't have enough room for swags or like it was bare essentials. Like, we had one little like shopping bag that was all like our cooking stuff, food stuff. That was what we just went off. So we've set up, and we're like, it's getting pretty cold. Let's just see how this goes. Like, we're putting on all the clothes we've got, and we're like curled up under this tarp, and we're trying to get to sleep, and it's freezing by this stage. Like, super clear night.
What, wetsuit on?
It got to that point. I put it on in the middle of the night. I put my wetsuit bottoms on, and they were still damp, but it was something like it was another layer. And I think we got. I definitely did. I reckon I got about an hour's sleep that night.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Did you dive the next day?
I reckon we would.
Yeah, we did. We didn't do too well either.
Nah.
I actually think I shot a trout. I put it in the footwell of the, like, we swam it back to the jet ski, put it in the footwell, like under all the anchor chain and the rope and stuff, and kept diving. And there must have been like a bit of water in the little footwell, and this trout has like survived. I thought I'd killed it. It wasn't dead. We kept diving for the next probably like hour or so, I reckon. Like, it was a fair while. We get back to the jet ski, and we're like, we were going to boost around to the other side of the island, and I've lifted the rope up, and this trout's just come back to life and just kicked out of the footwell and just launched over the side and swum off. And that was the only fish we'd shot all day.
Oh, shit.
And I just remember Jai and I both looked at each other and we're just like, it's just not our day. Like, it's just not meant
That's
to be.
a sick trip, though. Like, it's still, like, that's one of those things I was saying before where you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
like that.
nice.
it was a cool
nice.
island. Like, it was wicked
That's
to just
fucking
like,
badass, though.
for
Like,
two blokes from like basically like suburban, well, I was suburban Melbourne.
Black boy Melbourne.
Yeah, proper. To be sleeping on a
you
like
bought that shit up here.
Yeah. To be sleeping on,
Sunset cruise shit.
you'll never let that go.
Fuck no, I won't.
To be sleeping on like a tropical island, which is like what you dream of, like growing
Yeah.
up, like diving in Vic. Doing an overnighter there, that was pretty wicked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
nice.
what, are you, like, sports spear fisherman? Like, everyone shoots for a feed. Like, obviously, if there's a trout that you shoot it. But are you out to target,
I think
like,
I probably speak.
sporting fish? Spangos, moo.
Yeah,
Or, like,
tricky, like
fuck
fish
around.
that are hard. Like, I'll chase I'll spend
Jobfish?
an hour. Yeah, don't bring that up. I'll spend like an hour trying to get within range of a moo for the like satisfaction of like making it happen. Where there could be a trout sitting there that's a gimme fish that you could swim down and pump. But the trout's just as good at eating, if not better. but I'll devote the time to a trickier fish just for that like long term.
Is that where your
gratification
connection comes in?
Yeah, the grind.
Is that why you're so connected to it?
To what?
I'm
like
talking to Ayden now.
the
So like
difficulty of it.
that,
The challenge.
like, you know what I mean? Like with bow hunting, is that where you connect the two? Is that like you can go and shoot that hind and get a feed, or you can be more patient and spend a week targeting a single stag? And you prefer to chase a single stag, obviously.
Ayden also
Depends.
loves trout, though.
I'm if the freezer's empty, I'm like on a meat mission. It's whatever's first up, eligible. We'll always like take it out.
As
long as it
connection
presents.
then? What's your connection between spearing and hunting?
I love the process of it, like in the sense that you just get away from everyday life. I like the fact that you can like be in control of. I'm a lousy fisherman, so spearfishing wise for me, it's very similar to bow hunting, where like you see what you're targeting visually. Like I think I've got good peripheral vision, so I see a lot of stuff that like is just like hiding. That I guess I'd like if I wasn't like aware, I'd swim over. So I like going sort of slow, seeing stuff and being like, all right, cool. Then assessing like there's a trout over there, which isn't super hard or difficult to shoot, but it's trying to do it in a sense that it's like you've done this cool dive, done a cool stalk, got away from the reef, so you're not going to like smash a shaft into it behind it, execute a cool shot, and then just you secured like a meal.
It's a bit of a
for
chess
me.
So
game.
you're like,
But I'm new to it all too.
Yeah, I was
so like
gonna
a
say.
trout for me is like I would be happy to shoot a trout.
so many trout on Saturday.
Yeah.
man.
But and I also probably don't dive. Like we went the other day, and the last time since then that I dived was like 3 months ago. So for me, it's like if I can shoot a few trout,
Like
it
a
means
fish-
I've got
a
a
fishing
fish
trip, yeah.
a week of a fish meal per week sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll mix that in with venison and whatever else, pork and whatever. Like I try and live off stuff that I've been able to like secure myself.
Your grocery bill would be fucking minimal. 'Cause you don't have to
Meat
buy
wise, protein wise, it's very like I buy the odd chicken to do like chicken curries and stuff, but
Yeah.
just like 'cause I'm
We
not,
need to start releasing more chicken so we can just have like a turkey spec.
We've got them running around campus.
Yeah, what
Man,
about
in the
the
Bush,
turkeys?
bush chooks.
Yeah.
Legit, man.
I don't know.
Legit, Paluma is full of wild motherfucking chickens.
Really?
You go walking around up there, man, looking for jungle perch, and you'll look. There's like
Oh,
legit
you just
bush chickens. Man, Paluma jungle perch, there's fucking everywhere. Like, there's that many streams up there. It's insane. Help yourself.
Where have they come from? Are they farms nearby?
Chickens or
They're
jungle
just-
perch?
Definitely the chickens.
Man, I don't know. But I've been up there like a handful of times, and Tully's another one. Tully's
Surely it's just
like around-
farmers nearby and they've just
It must be,
gone
man. Like
rogue.
you're walking through and you think they're like those little scrub hen fucking brown things, and it's a full blown chook, man. Like
Yeah.
full
Woolies
red. What do you
chook.
call that red shit on their face? That's
don't know.
waddle.
yeah, like
Proper
Oh,
brown.
of course you know that.
what's it called?
a waddle or a comb. I don't know.
Yeah,
Waddle.
probably it'd be
Yeah.
comb. It'd be. I feel like comb.
Nerd.
I think comb's on top. Waddle must be this.
Like a full blown fucking chicken walking through the middle of the jungle, and you're like fucking 10 kilometers in the middle of nowhere.
Did you have a cast at it?
I tried to. No, like legit. It's a legit thing. I don't even know where the fuck the conversation was going.
Linkage between bow hunting and
Yeah.
spearing.
So like, how many dive trips you done? Handful.
We've probably done
Now, like, so initially I first got up here for uni in like 2017 and would have gone maybe 4 or 5 times over a year.
Yeah.
And then had a long like hiatus from it where all my mates who had boats left or whatever, like
Yeah.
just through uni, I didn't know anyone. And then sort of met Ben this year, or towards the end of last year. And this year we've probably gone, 6 times or something
Yeah,
like that now?
a couple more.
So,
yeah. 8
um,
or so already.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're
I've
still
been-
in like that honeymoon.
Oh, for me, everything's like, that's the other day we went out and it was like,
I don't think
I
I've ever
G
lived
up
the
so
honeymoon phase
hard.
just quietly.
I G up so hard. Like if the boys are like, oh, the weather looks good for this weekend. In my head, I'm like, all right, be cool. But also, boys, are we going diving? Like I'll send Ben
the group
a message
chat,
every
Ayden is
2
like
hours.
Just
gonna-
designated hype man. There'll be
I feel like I could show those videos, but they won't. They won't be like without
No.
seeing them.
long
Like-
story short. There's a filter that makes you look a lot like Wade Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Bald
There's a
melon,
bald man filter with like a
beard,
little like stubble fucking
Everything.
atmos.
It's uncanny.
It's
but
so
basically, Ayden will just put that filter on and send a video to the chat pretending to be Wade, just being like, righto,
Yeah.
boys, like, get your gear ready. We're going this weekend. clear your freezers.
Full did one like
yeah.
as a message from like Flow State from Wade from Flow State.
We'll be out of the office.
We're flogging trout.
And it was just daily. It was like, weather update. We still good? Yep. Awesome.
How did that? I don't even know how that seed even come about.
I said to Ayden, I was like, Ayden, you've got to hype Wade up because you're the hype man. You'll get him keen and he'll commit early. And then
No,
we'll
but I was
definitely go.
keen the second you said the weather was good. I was like, oh, so we're going diving. And you were like, oh, maybe we'll see what Wade's doing. And then the idea was already in my head. I was going diving.
Ayden was the
fins.
key. Ayden was the key to convincing Wade. And the next second I hear that Wade's bought new fins. I'm like, Ayden, it's worked. We're 100% locked
I've been
in.
on that-
We are going.
I need to upgrade some fucking dive gear for years, but just been using.
You love it.
For me,
You love a
though,
good
like-
upgrade of some gear before a
Fuck
trip.
yeah.
You're like,
because I can justify
Yeah.
the severe
For me,
expense.
like this year, diving selfishly has been like what I really look forward to. Like I love hunting, obviously, and bow hunting's sick. But with uni, it's like I very rarely get a whole weekend off, or if I do, it puts me back for like the next month. I can't do anything. Whereas diving, it's like I can really, really work hard and study throughout the whole week. Late at night, like do an extra couple of lectures each night, and then take Saturday off. Wake up at 3 to go diving, get home late, fillet fish, clean the boat, go to bed like at some stupid hour, wake up and study on a Sunday, or vice versa.
Well, you even said that to us. I think it was on the boat trip home or something on Sunday. Was that like bow hunting? You sort of need to commit a fair few days.
Yeah, it's
so it's
hard.
sort of hard to do with study.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any like sporting style spearfishing aspirations yet?
I've got heaps.
Yeah?
I've got heaps. Like, we obviously went out and you shot an epic fish. That's probably
Yeah.
up the top of my list, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm not bad.
No, but like,
mad snake.
how stoked was I when
Oh,
you
man.
did it?
I was fucking stoked because I had a cunt of a day.
Yeah.
Really, to be honest. Yeah. I know. Like, I don't think I still don't have any particular aspirations.
I
love a
It's-
fish that's like just a hard one. Like there's a couple I'll probably get to them a bit later. But anything that's like, if there's frustration and stuff early on, and then you slowly like you're getting closer and closer each trip, and you're like, all right, maybe next trip it'll happen. Like I'll learn from mistakes of last time. You know, we go to the right spots. We've done our recon. It might pay off this time.
For me, it's been like a weird sort of like journey where initially it was like, all right, you go on the reef, trout are like the most edible fish up here, like super easy. They're inquisitive. You know, you don't have to be a great diver. They were always something that was really cool and like achievable.
And like esky fillers.
Actually, going
Many
back to,
fillers.
I think you guys touched up on the fact that like you dive Victoria because I'm from Vic too, and it's super relatable. Like you're shooting flathead in 5 meters of water where you're basically headbutting this bottom and it's all silty and sandy, and you're like, oh shit, a flathead, and you shoot it and great work. You could have caught it with your hands. Whereas I remember my first like trip up to the reef here back in 2017. I borrowed a mate's gun. I didn't even have spearing equipment. Had a rashie and board shorts, and shot
How
like
good's the leg burn and the back of your board shorts
literally.
rub on the inside of your fucking
man.
knee
chafing,
joint, man.
all that. And then I remember the first like handful
Memories.
of trout I shot. I think I bagged out that day because all the rest of the boys were accomplished divers targeting like mackerel and stuff. They just weren't shooting trout. I ended up shooting a fair few and shot a 73 centimeter trout
That's
in my fin, and was just like, holy shit, this thing like tugged me. I didn't even have a reel on the gun, so it like pulled me underwater. And I was like, holy shit, this is not a flathead. Like, and just like the clear water, I didn't realize how far the shot, not how far it was, but like how far away it was. And then that obviously made the fish bigger than what I thought it was. And just like perspectives were way out coming from
Yeah.
Vic to up here. But I still like am a sucker for trout. But when I'm,
Undisputed trout lord of the southern hemisphere, we call him.
yeah. But like learning curve wise, it's been sick diving with Ben and even Jai. Both of them have like been really cool in the fact that like they'll see something and I'll see them looking at it and they're sort of sussing it out. And a few times I've just like pulled the mask aside and been really inquisitive and been like, oh, what's that? Like you're looking at that black and white fish or that, you know, like I remember seeing the move for the first time and like I'd heard stories about it and stuff, but never actually seen one. And then once these boys started like actually saying, yeah, that's a moo, like, you know, and giving me a few tips, it's like that's when I'm like, okay, now I know what it is. Because a trout's easy.
You just go and smack one up like you did.
Like trout are easy. I remember jumping in the water at my first dive ever, and there were 2 at the anchor, and I was like, "Oh, what are they?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, shoot them." And I was like, "Done." From then, I had like an obsession with trout.
Just quietly, anchor trout are a thing.
It's a
that is
reliable.
a confirmed thing.
Make heaps of noise, throw the anchor down,
Yeah.
let it hit sand, and
I just carry an anchor around. I just tap on rocks.
Everyone's
dive down,
carrying
give it a tap.
flashes around,
Yeah.
thinking that's a go, and Jai's just got it dialed with an anchor.
but like, I'll never forget the Spango with you, where you were like, "All right, here,
That was a
we're in a
wicked
good
day.
zone."
We had a proper meeting on top of that bomb. We were like,
Yeah.
right, give them a second. They're going to circle back. They'll come to another lap of the lagoon. That's the spot you were just in. That's your good cover spot. Give them plenty of time. Throw a bit of sand. Hide your eyes a little bit. Like drop your gaze so they're not feeling spooked. And it was wicked, man. I'm sitting back like off the bommy, so I'm not in the fish's like line of sight, but I can see Ayden, and he's holding like good bottom time, and I can't quite see the fish, but I can tell off like Ayden's attention that he's seen him come in, and just watching him like stretch out, slot, fish rolls over, you see it kicking around, and he just comes to the surface, and I'm just yahooing and fist bumping.
I think
'cause it's
you were more
paid off.
keen than me,
I was,
like excited than
I was
me.
so stoked that paid off. It was
But
wicked.
for me, it was
Only
like
they tasted good.
massive. That was like a bow hunting moment for me.
Only they tasted good.
We just had a mad feed of Spangos, and Wade's already dissing
Yeah,
them.
that was bloody
Because
good.
it was like diluted in coconut milk and curry powder. Tasted delicious.
Anything, Will's Wong would have tasted good in it.
But, like, I can relate to that.
I wish you
with,
didn't
like,
neck that.
I can relate to like. See, I love all fish. Like that moo was up there with eating Spangos. I remember.
Tell us
getting
about the moo shot. Because she just.
I will
rolled in
after
on
these.
the
I'm
third
sure
fucking-
these boys have way better moo stories. But
You have a cracker that made a video about.
Yeah.
That got real interesting. We'll have to touch
fill
on that.
Fill that in. But I was going to say like Spangos. I'm definitely like love trout because they're just super easy to fill in
Same
and stuff.
Oh,
Same
But
sis.
I really appreciate like everything in the sense because like with venison, you've obviously got the backstrap there. That's like one of the best cuts, and most people that would be what they prefer. And then you take legs and you can do stews and stuff, which I find similar to like curries with the Spangos and that. So it's like everything's got its like place, and I'm massive on like
trout.
we've had sashimi from your Macs, from your Jobbies, all that sort of stuff.
singular.
Jobby.
Not plural.
But it's like I think everything's got its place.
Now you
and
just got to
it's-
shoot a legal one. You
I,
lost me at trout.
Fill us in.
So many on the week.
Just circling back a little bit, I learnt heaps off Jai early days because you'd had a few trips, sort of head start. You had Spangos and moo sort of dialed. So to be able to like get out to the reef and watch how you approached fish, like that was the biggest. Like I'll attribute most of that learning like just from watching you and watch how you approached fish and what you could get away with and what was like just an instant sort of like mood killer for him.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I was probably a little bit different in the sense you said you sort of there were all these new species that you'd never seen before. I was probably on the other end of things from watching like so many YouTube clips of blokes diving the tropics, like looking at all the photos and the pictures and stuff. That was like one of the biggest things for me was like seeing fish that I'd never seen in real life before, but just straight away knowing like, oh, that's a red-throat emperor, that's a fusilier, that's a Spanish, whatever. That for me was like such a buzz, seeing all these new fish that you've only seen in like YouTube clips or in books, and then being able to like ID them like confidently, like straight off the bat.
Yeah, you're my ID guy.
Even me too.
In that prac at uni, found these massive fish under a ledge, and I thought they were red snapper.
That's right.
And I
Oh,
showed
mango
the video
jack.
to Ben.
That's right, at the reef.
Maybe like a 70 and an 80 centimetre jack.
That's right. Yeah, sorry.
Point blank, and I
Backtrack
thought I'd
slightly.
better
So-
not pull the trigger.
Was it you? So you thought they were red bass? This is a pretty
I wasn't
common.
sure, yeah, because I just didn't know the species very well at all up here, and I knew they were big and they looked good, but I just wasn't willing to pull the trigger without knowing what they were. And
Yeah, that's right.
Haven't
I
seen one
remember
that
being
big
like,
since.
man, that's like about as big as Jack get,
Yeah.
and you let him swim.
Didn't even
And then
mark the
Ayden on the
bottom.
other flip side of that coin, diving the island, seeing Jack and thinking they were red bass.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're better off like just watching.
Yeah,
yourself
always on
off,
caution.
yeah.
Err
Islands
on
make
the
me
side
think
of
about
caution.
Saturday. That makes me think
Oh, and on that, we had a bit of an item recognition class with when you
Oh,
shot your
species
jack.
ID.
Yeah, you shot your jack, Wade, and then I did the next dive as you were taking it back to the boat. Stone Cold Jack Killer. See puppy. And then I did a dive and had 2 big old Mary sea perch swim by within arm's reach and didn't shoot him because I wasn't 100% sure. Went home, looked at some photos and video.
You were telling me on the trip home, and everything you were describing, I was like, oh man, I think they were MSPs.
Yeah.
Oh no, they were.
Well, I watched the
actually-
video and it was 100%.
I was
MSPs.
actually like, one of them weird sort of things where you just fixated on one thing, and even though they were MS, I saw one that I didn't like. I wasn't like super like that's a fucking MSP, but I was like, oh, looks like an MSP. But like I was so fixated on that fucking jack that I forgot. I
Tunnel
completely
vision.
disregarded the other dog because I was trying to identify whether it was a jack or a red bass because it was at a fair distance at the time when I hit bottom.
And that viz wasn't
wasn't
super
amazing.
crashed.
No, it was murky-ish. And then the bommy had like layers too. It was sort of
It was like
shadowed.
leveled, man.
Yeah.
It was weird.
cool.
It's a fucking sick bommy.
Well,
I reckon it's one of
I
the
was
best ones I've
diving
ever
way
gone.
off it, and the sand, where the bommy finishes, the sand sort of drops away too. So like,
We could
Yeah.
get anything there.
well,
Red
heaps
Emperor in
of
winter are
spangos,
half a chance on
Oh,
that
man.
too.
heaps of spangos, MSP, jack, a little trout, a little trout.
The
He
big
nearly
trout.
copped it, but I didn't want to pull the trigger.
Oh dear.
Just going back to Jai had a really unique hunting technique for spangos that
yeah.
I found hilarious, but it works. And you explain it, but
That's actually adapted from a Victorian technique.
was it
I
really?
Came up with.
Oh,
yeah.
it was with blue throat rats.
Yeah,
That's
Can you
right.
shuffle under the table a bit more?
Yeah,
Just a little bit
no
closer to the
worries.
mic.
Yeah.
Man, this will
Yeah.
do your head in. You'll be like,
So-
you're an idiot.
There's a fish
I
in
feel like an
Victoria.
No, you'll think Jai's crazy for doing this.
There's a fish in Victoria.
He's already a bad motherfucker. He's a jet ski reef motherfucker. He's good.
Yeah, there's a fish called blue throat wrasse, and the males they're really bright and they're very territorial. And so what I used to do in Victoria, like they're alright to eat. So on a day where things aren't going too well, I'd whack one and then I'd reload my gun
It's
and I'd
like
put it
shooting a
on the end.
parrotfish out here.
They're not.
I see where this is going. The old decoy.
Yeah, put it on the gun
Nah,
and you
that-
start swimming the fish, and another male comes and he gets real angry because he's like, "You're in my territory." And he comes up and tries to bite the one on the end of your spear, and you got an easy shot then. And then so I came up here and I saw the way that the Spangled Emperor swim together, and I thought, I reckon, like I noticed.
Rennie,
I
this dude's fucking legit.
I'm gonna
I know
take
he's
some Laminex
Next
little
level
decoys.
thinking. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
taken blow up. Like,
'Cause-
nah, not quite.
that like you'll see sometimes a stingray feeding and they'll come in and they seem to get really comfortable with the stingray, and it's like sometimes there's one that it's the brave one and the others will follow it. So I was like, I just need that brave one. So you shoot one and then you just hold it up with your left hand and you just pretend it's swimming right in front of your face, and the school comes straight in, and then you just whack another. And it
I'm
works
fanboying.
well. It works well.
I'm fanboying.
There's like tactics, and then there's next level thinking.
Holy,
Do you
I
reckon
like
Trout will respond?
We're 100%
You can try it, yeah.
I don't think
you
you
just
need
got to watch with sharks. If there's a few sharks in the area and you got this fish in your hand trying to decoy down the bottom, it doesn't go very well. So
Sure, you could
That's
use
all.
like a perspex sort of little thing and make it a little
Yeah,
stand.
Well, like,
Get a
I've
dummy
used
like
the-
literally, you know those balloons how you get those like lead sinkers and then get a little piece of tape and string like a little perspex.
I just use like the little like little sections of
Yeah.
off my flash. I'll keep
Duck
up
decoys
my,
and-
like the wrist of my weddy, and every now and then when you throw some sand and make a bit of a
Yeah.
screen, you can sort of reach through and hold
That
a
was
little
actually-
mirror and glint it a bit. That's where
That was
really
actually
well
like your Spango on the weekend was nice to watch.
yeah.
Oh, it was good.
He's
Because I saw the
got
whole. Yeah, Rennie got a fucking stonker.
watch out, you'll start eating them soon.
Yeah, just start shooting them because they're fun.
I might even eat them just in flour, salt, and pepper. Never, never.
No, it was cool knowing because I was like, Wade's on the surface and I know he can see everything going on right now.
It was
He's,
cool to
he's
watch.
probably screaming in the back of his head like, "They're behind you! Turn around, you idiot!"
And I couldn't do anything about it. It was wild because I seen you see them. I seen them
Yeah.
when you seen them, and then you hit bottom, and they did. We were in like, we were diving. Imagine a ledge, and then there was sand, and then there was this one single bommy in this big sort of sandy patch, and they swum. They were swimming sort of parallel with us, the same direction as us. So we seen them. Rennie dove, laid on bottom, started flicking sand. I was basically almost straight above him, and I watched the Spangos go around this bommy. And I'm doing it with my hands, I don't know why. But just come around this bommy and sort of come back in behind him. And I was watching him flick sand and stuff. And I seen him come back in. I'm sort of like bobbing there. And I run quite a heavy weight belt. So I sort of need to constantly be slightly paddling to stay up. and I'm like trying to kick like the absolute slowest so I don't spook anything, with keeping my snorkel just out of water.
Didn't you have
So
a
I could
mouthful of water as well in your snorkel that you didn't want
Yeah,
to
I
blow
was
out?
like trying to fucking not go pff and spit it out.
That's a good dive, buddy.
Yeah. Because I was
Nearly drowned for me.
and I had
On
it
the
in there
surface.
because I was trying to stay afloat. Anyway, and I watched this thing go down, and he shot it, and it did that massive fucking
big
loop.
U-turn and then came back under me, and I'm like madly trying to pull my
because
reel
you laid
line in.
over on your side almost and shot.
Yeah, I
it-
did.
Almost
you could
shot it
see, in the
backwards.
GoPro footage, you can see like both my fins are also in the shot too, which is a bit of a
you like
contortionist act.
You rolled like you twisted back over yourself and shot it almost like back across the opposite shoulder. It was
Yeah,
nice.
they were not
And it
in
was
the-
one of the bigger ones too.
Yeah, they were not in the position. I thought they were going to come in from straight ahead,
Yeah.
but they ended up coming at from about a 45.
That
angle
little
up behind
sharky
me.
boy was mooching around for fucking like 50 meters. He
He
was
was. I remember you got to the surface and you were like, "Oh man, that shark was pretty amped." And in my head, I was like, "Oh, he didn't look too amped." You were a bit like,
It was half. It was half
sketched
lit.
by
Like
him.
he was like, I'm reasonably savvy with shark behavior. He was like tucking.
yeah,
Like
he was.
tucking fins and like.
I wasn't too. He wasn't up in anyone's grill too much.
You know how they get like they like sort of almost like they're going to hit something and they just dart.
Real jerky
Like they're real.
movements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was doing that, but no mouth or anything.
Probably
So
a good segue into probably one of the more hectic shark
That was
encounters we've
fuck-
had,
that-
which we've got.
That's also you did that.
Yeah. Oh,
I am hard fanboying you. Actually, we'll tell that story in a minute. I'm mildly aroused.
Yeah.
Is it weird if
you
I have
take that one
half
from
a chubby?
start to start.
That's
finish.
fine.
Probably start off. Preface it by saying we were diving. The two of us, which is never like a great start. From
No one cares.
so we were diving.
No one cares
from
about my shark story anymore.
He buggered off. You chased him off, and he,
Yeah, I had to
he
dive
didn't
down on your
really
fish for
didn't
you.
really give it a second. He took one
It's
look
fine,
at you
man.
and was out of there.
It's fine, man. I'll just be one of them unsung heroes. It's all good.
That's it.
Yeah.
But this incident with
Hey,
Did you shoot a jack?
did.
stone boy.
Are you going diving this weekend?
This Saturday, boy, I'm gonna smack
Without
so
me,
many little trout.
man.
While Rennie's moving and unpacking his fucking house,
I'll be living by.
Aiden and I won't be thinking about him at all.
Aiden will be, just briefly. The first fish, he'll be like, this one's
He'll be like, I can't wait to get this back to the boat and send a photo to Rennie.
I'll shoot like first of species with 3 different
Yeah.
fish. I'll see a tusky finally and shoot one.
and I won't be there to witness. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Basically,
Yeah.
Jai's
Tell the gutter
hectic
stomp story.
shark run-in. It
Have you
started
seen
off,
that video?
the two of us, we couldn't find a third buddy, which we like to run 3. So we've got a boatie, so the boat's mobile, which is like pretty handy. Especially if there's sharks.
Post jet ski.
Oh yeah, so at this stage, Jai
Yeah.
had upgraded to a rib.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back to ribs.
Had the
They've been a
rib
bit of
with
a feature.
Fran. But yeah, it was really lucky that I had someone nearby in the water. That was a good thing. Ben hears the gun go off and he's straight over to help.
Well, it was a big moo. So you've
Yeah.
it was a good stalk. The whole thing was on footage, which was pretty cool. Big bottom time on a big moo.
Yeah, tucked under the cave and. Do you want me to tell it?
Yeah,
Or-
you go, man.
And
You
I mean, you
go.
can tell your perspective as well because, yeah, for me, I went down. I knew there was a couple of moo there. I tucked under a ledge. It tends to work pretty well for them. And 2 of them came in. I managed to shot on one and got it. And as I came up to the surface, this shark came in and I thought, all right, here we go. I want this fish. Don't want to give it to you. And got up to the surface and thankfully Ben's coming straight over and another shark came in and I didn't think too much of it, started pulling the fish up and I managed to get to the fish to me, but the shark came right up on the surface, and whenever they've come right up on the surface in the past, they tend to be pretty goey at that point. And I think they were white tips, and usually I'm more worried about black tips than
They're
white
the
tips.
smaller of the sharks, but man, their ego is like so disproportionate to their size. Like they've got
Yeah.
such an attitude for. Really, they're not a big shark, but
No,
you
but
only
they're-
really have to worry about them if you're holding a fish and you don't see him come in, because then the chance of like maybe getting a bit of a nip on the hands
And they can
comes into play.
turn 360 really quickly as well, and 180. So yeah, I got up and I thought, all right, well, I've got the fish in my hand. We should be all right here. Started swimming back towards the boat, but this shark just came straight in at the top at me, and I was like, all right, this guy's like pretty keen. So I pulled the spear out of the fish and I tried to poke it with the spear, and just moved around the spear and kept coming at me. So I was like kicking and kicking, came back.
You had the fish with one in your left hand, so
Yeah.
you had one arm out of the water basically to protect the fish. So you're down one hand and you're also treading water like mad.
Yeah, kicking backwards. I was in the deeper stuff and there was a lot of bommies there. So I came up over the bommy thinking that it would be fine. At this point, another shark had come in as well. Ben had sort of gotten over to where I was. I got in onto the shallow water. It was like a metre and a half deep. I thought this is fine. Like they usually leave once you're in the shallow water, but they were straight in on the shallows.
I think
So
there was 3 at one point.
Yeah,
'Cause
there was a blur of sharks.
There was a tornado, and
Yeah.
I remember just like swiveling on the spot, trying to keep an eye on all of them at once.
Yeah.
Jai's prodding him off with a spear. I've got Jai's gun in one hand so it doesn't get snagged up on the bottom and basically like tether him to the reef. I've got my gun in one hand trying to poke them off as well. And at the same time, I'm really conscious that Jai and I are basically like having a fencing match with sharks between us. So I'm like a little bit worried I'm going to stab Jai with my spear as well.
Yeah.
And then I look over and Jai's got one shark in around his face and then one just makes a beeline for his feet.
Yeah, so I had the fish up in the air, out of the water. That didn't stop one of them. It kind of jumped up, slapped me in the face with its tail. But for now, that one was all right. And I looked down, and the bigger of the two is trying to nip my fin. And his mouth is just about on my fin. And I'm like, nah, that's not happening. So I start kicking. And the first kick that I do, it just so happens that my foot stomps on the shark's head and pins it to the plate coral. I'm in shallow enough water that pretty much my whole weight's on it. And I'm like, this thing's going to be mad when I take my foot off it. So I'm like, I'm not taking my foot off. I'm going to leave it on there. So I'm there trying to hold my foot on this shark. It's wriggling around like mad under my foot. I'm like, oh, this is going south so quick. And then it felt like a long time it was there. It was only a couple of seconds, I think. And it managed to wriggle out and swim off. And
I was laughing hysterically through my snorkel as I'm just watching this shark just basically like
You can
literally
hear you
getting,
laughing on the GoPro.
You can. In the footage, I'm like squealing through my snorkel because this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. This shark's like quivering on the bottom, just being like gutter stomped into the coral flap.
yeah.
Eventually, we managed to keep palming them off, and we got to the boat and jumped in, and we both just like sat there laughing for like a good 5-10 minutes. Like, no way did that just happen. Like, check yourself. Like, no nips anywhere. We're all good.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So yeah, I've got a new respect for the white tips
Yeah,
now.
they're,
About you.
That one,
They're one to watch.
yeah.
Like,
Well, that one on Sunday, I remember seeing that shark on the bommy before, and that was like 50 meters away.
that's the thing. That spot. So that particular reef, we dove with a couple of other people, probably like a few months prior.
South 148.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one.
We'll post up the GPS.
Yeah. Oh, for anyone who wants to go and get hassled by sharks, flat out, we'll let you know where it is. But basically, we dived that spot like a month or two ago, and we got hassled by a couple of sharks. Like they looked very similar.
Yeah.
I think some sharks actually got fed.
They have white
Yeah.
tips on them.
Yeah, that's the one.
Same shark, same size.
Same
but
attitude.
Yeah,
Literally same bommy. Like that was where we like parked the
Yeah.
boat both times.
one
Seen
did.
one of them had a concave head.
Yeah.
and the
Yeah, he was missing some teeth from where they've been stomped out.
Yeah, but yeah, no, there was So someone put some fish in the water and fed one of them, which
Was not
don't know if
smart.
it was the best idea. And that was the very next time we went there. Same spot, same shark species, same size. So seems like there's a fair chance it was the same one, and
Most
that was
likely.
right up in our face. So it seems like it's probably not the best idea to feed them. That was yeah.
It's
right.
bizarre that like there's spots where they will like take an interest in you and follow you. No fish in the water, no guns gone off, but they know like if they follow you for long enough, they'll get a free an easy feed.
It's scary how quick they hear that trigger mechanism go off.
Oh,
Shit
that
just
was-
they
appears
just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
Sound
it's
of a
like,
gun going off.
you're in pretty clear water, like
Yeah.
up here, and then it's just like, oh, there's 4 sharks. Like,
It's really good to have buddies. Like I was out with Ben and Fran, and I think we had someone else with us that day as well. I think we're on Lodeston, and we're right out the
that's
back,
right.
and yeah, same sort of thing. We went down. Ben went down. Fran had just shot a trout. Ben went down, and he had his back turned, and this big bull shark, like I reckon it was 2.5, maybe 2.5 meters, pretty round, came right in from the depths. Didn't come too close to him, probably like 5 or 6, 7 meters away. Had a look and then went away, and I was like taken a deep breath to go down and try and cover his six if I had to. And he came up and he didn't see it at all. And like if there's something going on,
reefies are like
come
okay, but fuck man, bullies and big bronze whalers and stuff.
We've seen a handful of big, like I think later in that day as well. There was a current absolutely ripping along this really steep edge, and it almost felt like we're like wingsuiting. You know, those videos where like wingsuiting along like mountains and stuff. It felt like that because the current was pushing us along that fast, like mid water. We're just like flying. And I remember I had Jai on my right, and we were both sort of gliding along like through all the bait, and I've looked past Jai, who was on my right, beyond him, and I'm sort of hang on a second, is that another no, that's a bull shark that's probably like 3 times the weight of his, and that bull shark was just gliding along, like 3 of us in a line, all heading in the same direction. Bull shark did not take an interest in us at all. It just like veered off slowly off into the depth. So they're one of those things, it's like they're always there, they know you're there most of the time. If you're lucky enough to see them, sometimes you know they're there.
Any white heckles down, like great white heckles down south?
You'd have a couple more stories. I
haven't
know
bumped
people
into
that
any.
have,
Yeah, definitely like you were saying about the abalone divers earlier. Like when I was down in southwest Victoria, I was in the spearfishing club there, the Shipwreck Coast Skin Divers, and there was a couple of ab diving guys there, and a couple of them had seen them before. Like there's an island down there with lots of seals, and one of the guys he'd had he reckoned 5.5 metre female come
Big
up
lady.
past him while he was on hooker, and he reckons he touched the side of it. I would have been hiding under a rock myself, but they get
it's
around.
one of your goals, isn't it, Wade, to swim with one?
I want to do a big tiger, man, like Ryan Bourne's. Really, because I don't find them.
Tiger seems better than white to
I
me.
feel like they're like heaps chill.
You say that, but like, I remember saying
Yeah.
that about like a bull shark until I saw it turn on a dime and try and, you know,
Yeah.
you got to
mess
judge
shit
the
up.
situation.
That day,
even
I just feel
reefies.
like-
I remember being like, oh, reef sharks aren't scary, and
I
then
feel like
you
any
see
shark's
them
bad on any
trying to eat
day,
your
on
own.
any certain day. But I feel like
Yeah.
bull sharks are more likely to be fucked up.
Yeah, I've
They're the
been
most
lucky so
aggressive I've
far.
seen for no reason.
I've never lost I've not had one get proper aggro and like try and take a fish. Like I
I
know
feel like they're
plenty of people
territorial
that
or
have.
something fucked up. Because like,
I've heard stories. Yeah,
I know they can just be in a really cranky mood.
yeah,
and
you
just,
see
like,
always hear
charge
about
people
dudes
on the
getting,
surface.
getting lit up like under jetties and shit. Like,
That's the thing. I
or
think
certain
clear
reefs,
water.
Like there's reefs off like the backside of the reef we dove on Sunday.
Yeah.
I've heard is hectic bad for them.
I've heard that too. From
Well,
that
there's been
same
dudes
reef.
2 or 3 years in a row
every
been
year.
bitten.
Every year someone gets towed up by one.
I don't
On the
know if
back
you know
side of it.
Sam Harris, but yeah, he was telling me they've jumped in there and had them just charge them as soon as they got in the
So I wonder if
water.
it's like a territorial thing or it's
Wouldn't be
like a
surprised,
breeding
like-
thing or what.
I personally think in clear water they're a lot more relaxed and chill.
I think sharks are like great whites, are worse because there's this whole persona, like it's blown out of proportion where they're like the
They do
biggest,
eat-
baddest fish in the sea.
they do eat seals.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a problem. Like seals are pretty big.
Would
we
it be
look at
because
like seals.
they're diving in deeper water though, so it's more of like, because I feel like if you're diving 10 meters, a shark can't generate a heap of force and like hit you
I
off
don't
the
know.
top.
They do.
Didn't
hunt
that dude get
seals
bumped?
in-
Like
There was
a
that
tiger,
fucking dude got
that's-
bumped a couple of years ago by a big white in like next to nothing.
Oh really?
He did like but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that there was like this video of this guy was on his phone. He was like, we're driving to this drive. Did you ever see that? He was down your way.
I'm not sure that I did.
He was like on his phone, like doing on his face. He's going like, I'm going to this place. We're going to try and dive this spot, whatever spot it is. He says it's known for like big whites. I'm going to see if we can see one. And I remember him like it was green, like it looked fucked. Shouldn't even been in there, but he was in there fucking around, and it was maybe like 3 or 4 meters deep, and like you could see this shape like far away, and then nothing for ages, and then the video fades out and comes back in, and then he's fucking mooching around looking for whatever he was looking for. I can't remember, and then he gets like bumped by it and didn't even see it.
Yeah.
And it goes and it comes back around. It was like, I don't know how big, but it looked like a 3-ish, 4 meter shark. In very, very shallow water. But I wonder if it was just in there, because I think they do hit, like, I know the ones that hit seals are like come from the deep.
There's
Out
that
of
video
nowhere,
where the
don't
guy
they?
on Instagram got charged by a shark, and it's scary how quick it comes out of the depth. Like it's
Yeah.
blue water, and you know when you see like the light coming through, and it's like it's barely penetrating the actual depth. Like it's so dark and blue, and this shark just comes up, and like he does well. He just had his gun there basically, I don't know if it hit the gun and
Oh,
he
is that
shot
Shane?
by
Is that
accident.
that fella from Vic?
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Shane.
But
wild.
the gun goes off, doesn't it? And then the
It-
shark
yeah.
just like
it basically
floats down.
open mouth, like
Yeah.
it hits the gun open mouth and basically like kills itself on the end of the gun.
Yeah, well, it just
Yeah.
but that was like 100%
Ridiculous.
coming out of the depths to
Yeah.
eat him. Like
Yeah.
that was an
That was
attack.
Cold,
territorial
I think,
thing.
too.
And
Yeah.
then, did you ever see the other one where it was like a second person video and it was old mate, someone filming a guy,
Yeah,
and
another
he
one.
spins
South
around
Africa.
to look at the bloke that's filming him, and this white comes and like hits him,
Misses his head by like an inch.
almost with the
Yeah.
bottom jaw, like just
Yeah.
like whiffs him, sort of thing.
I've had black tips do that to me on the reef.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what it's about, but yeah, I
Yeah.
guess they're just getting really close, just sussing you out.
I've never had any hectic, like I've had ones that have been hectic, like fish grabbers, but I've never had any that have proper like been weird.
Yeah.
I've seen a few where they've like sort of made me get out of the water because they've been like darting around being fucking
Yeah.
fin tucking and like acting sort of aggressive, but never had any like come in and shake me up.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
God, touch wood.
how many hours you spend in the water, eventually
Yeah.
you'll come across all sorts of things. And like Shane, who had that shark come up and he put the gun between him and it and it went in its mouth, he also was diving down off Port Fairy in Victoria, going for the tuna. And they had a 60-litre float with them. They were doing some filming for a TV show they were working on at the time, and a white smashed the 60-litre float right in front of them, and they just got straight back in the boat. So he's been, I think he's spent a fair bit of time in the water, but he's seen a few
Yeah.
sort of sketchy encounters. But it's just a numbers thing, I think. Like if you
I
just
suppose
spend
it's
enough
like-
time, you'll
I think it's one of those
increase
things.
the odds.
The first question you always get asked, if like the topic of spearing gets brought up, and if someone that's maybe
Is
not as
sharks.
is like, oh, do you see many sharks? And like the simple answer is, if you're diving in the tropics, you see them every trip, probably multiple a day. And if you think of like the amount of times like you see a shark, where it is, if it's chasing a fish of yours, if it's just cruising, think how many times you have just like an innocent just encounter versus
like
the time.
snakes with bow
Yeah.
hunting. Like,
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
they're there, respect them. Don't
Yeah.
obviously go and
And
annoy
there's-
them. Don't
there's
leave
so
the
many
fish in front of
steps.
them.
There's so many steps you can take with like good buddy diving, like Jai mentioned before, just that extra pair of eyes. And also that sort of extra like presence in the water. I find you can sort of bully sharks off a fish if you've got a mate, like another person or two buddies with you. You can sort of assert a bit of like dominance over the situation. They feel outnumbered, and their confidence sort of just goes through the floor, and they'll retreat. But yeah, honestly, like it's always a risk. Like you take that risk every time you go for a dive. We know it's not our.
Shallow water blackout's way worse.
Oh, in the
I think by the numbers
in the
it would
risk,
be.
yeah, in the scheme of what can go wrong diving, sharks, they seem like the obvious first point of call, but they're pretty far down the list. Like,
It's like personal
even
failures,
just boat
but,
strikes, man. The amount of like, if you think of like Port Phillip Bay, how busy that is, and how many people do or nearly get run over by boats and jet skis, that's way worse than sharks. Like,
Yeah. Shallow water blackouts always worth, and like with the recent events up in Cairns too. Like even just knowing the currents and being aware of that. Like Ben and I have been out, and I've got caught up with a fish and ended up on the shallows with a fair bit of current pumping, and it's not a good feeling when you realise that you're having to kick and use your arms to make any ground on it. So there's a couple of those risks that you don't think about a lot, but they all need respect.
Yeah.
it's just like we've probably developed like a pretty good buddy system, and like running a boatie that's pretty on the ball, and like probably early on diving from a jet ski that was anchored was probably a little bit naive of us, but it's one of those things that's like a learning curve.
Do you need a piss, Jai?
No, I'm right. Yeah.
You look like you're real like
Fidgety.
fidgety, and I'm like, oh, this poor bastard probably needs a piss.
no. Thanks for checking.
But yeah, it's one of those things like you work on it over time, and with experience you develop a pretty good system that's pretty safe and more effective too. Like diving is a close pair. You see more fish, you land more fish. If your buddy's on the ball, it's a lot more efficient, and you can sort of maximise your time on the water that way.
Yeah, and in those times where something's
Any scary
Surprising.
blackout stories?
Not for me. I've been like the main thing. Hyperventilating is really dangerous. Like from what I understand, your body doesn't actually read your oxygen levels in your blood. It reads the carbon dioxide I suspect it's the acidification from when those levels go up. And so if you hyperventilate, you bring your carbon dioxide levels down like further than they would normally be. So your oxygen levels could be lower than your body understands them to be. And that's where a lot of risk can come into it. So I've always done a really, really relaxed but minimal breathe up just to try and reduce the chances.
When you're in the water or pre getting in the water?
When I'm in the water. So before the dive. So I'll
Yep.
generally do really relaxed, shallow breathing like you would if you're sitting watching TV or something.
I think
And
they
then-
call it is it tidal breathing? Just whatever's like your natural resting
Yeah.
breathing rate. Because basically anything, or my understanding of it, anything that's like super deep and super long is actually a form of hyperventilating.
It can be. I've heard, like, I'm sure there's different definitions out there, but I've heard more than 5 breaths within a minute classifies as hyperventilating. But it's still a bit of ambiguity in that because it depends how deep your breaths are, how quick and slow, and so
Everyone's different. Like they'll
Yeah.
have a, it's someone that's fitter and maybe has like a better like endurance base or whatever is going to have a. Basically, it's just knowing your limits and.
But I find like shallow breathing right beforehand really calm your heart rate down. I'll usually do half an exhale, sort of or maybe even a light exhale, 80% inhale, full exhale, and then full inhale, and then go down. So I've taken sort of 2 biggish breaths right before the dive, and I find that's pretty good.
You can definitely
Probably
do
the biggest. I think the biggest
Old
thing
dog once
is
in
like
the
a proper
podcast.
recovery time, rather than like
Yeah.
a really regimented breathe up. Is the rule of thumb is like, or that I try and stick to is like minimum of triple your bottom time. So if you do a dive for 1 minute, I'm not even thinking about a dive until I've been on the surface for even probably more than that, 3-4 minutes relaxing on the surface.
I'm bad for like having a dive and then like getting up and being like, oh, that was a good dive. Oh shit, trout.
Send it.
Bang, straight back down. Like you can
Yeah.
do it with trout, I guess, because they're generally like half come out towards you out of the water column a little bit. But like those more like mysterious species, like the stuff that are hiding, you need good bottom time to be chilled
And you're better off taking your time and actually doing it on a proper breathe up when you can get your maximum sort of like the max out of that dive rather than sort of rushing a bomb diving them and spooking them off and then they're not coming back at all. So typically if you like sit off them and you give them some space, they're going to stay there and then you can
It takes
get
me a
good
long
crack at 'em.
time to get sort of like comfy. And I remember it took me a lot of diving to get comfy. I used to get really uncomfortable with pressure. It's like, when you start hitting like around 15
Yeah.
and it like everything's real squashy.
Tight.
Yeah, in the chest.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
feels real. You get that real weird feeling.
That's
Yeah.
one of those things you've got to like. It's a super slow process.
Yeah.
Like if you try and push, like your depth, like progression too fast,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's like never ends well.
Nah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it feels like for me, because I had the same thing when I came up here, I'd probably never done more than 12 or 15 metres in Victoria, and then coming up here doing a bit more, around 20, and it feels like your lungs, they shrink down under the pressure, and it feels a bit like you've exhaled, and because you're so far down, your brain goes, oh, we shouldn't be exhaling right now, even though you haven't.
Yeah.
It just sort of has that sensation. I find that's one of
Yeah.
those mental things to get past.
It's a weird thing. And like, you don't even need to be like, you're a little fucking bitch. You keep your ass down here. It's like, no, you're good, man. You're good for a little bit. You're good for a little bit. And then like control like your like convulsions.
Contractions.
Yeah, like them diaphragm contractions.
Yeah.
And you can find like you can actually turn them off for a little bit anyway. Like
Yeah.
I find I can. Like I can turn them off. Like I get one, I'm like, no. I'm
Yep.
good. And then it'll just stop happening for another 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds.
Yep.
And then they start like coming a little bit hard and you're like, probably something to start thinking about come back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best thing about like spearfish is you can kick like fucking like shoot up at the top. Like I think I seen you might have pushed it a bit hard one of the day. Like I was Bodie and I seen you pop up like a fucking
Rocket ship.
yeah. Like,
Did you?
probably.
That was because he had a trout in his hand. It's like,
It
yeah,
might have,
boys.
it might have been. I can't remember what dive it was, what drop it was. You were diving with Rennie and I think I was Bodie. And you come up like a float. Like you just went, whoop, straight up vertical.
Probably. There are times when like,
You must have been
especially
like-
clear water.
Yeah.
I remember times being like getting a good breathe up, feeling real comfortable, seeing a trout on the bottom, and you're halfway down. You're like, I've kicked at least like 5 or 6 times, and generally that means like at least a couple of meters. And then you're like still halfway to the bottom, and you're like, shit, get to the bottom.
And that trout's getting really big.
The trout,
all of a
the
sudden.
trout's bigger, and then it's like starting to get a bit cagey. So this stalk goes for like 20 or 30 seconds, and then you either shoot it, fight it for a bit, and that's when you start. I obviously can't control my breathing once I've shot a fish. It's sort of like quick, get it out of the bommy, get a bit of a hold on it, start like working out, getting back.
For someone that doesn't dive a hell of a lot, like
Your breath
really
hold's
regularly,
fucking insane.
your composure and your technique and stuff is really good. Like you don't lose much form at all.
You could go diving and just not talk to go diving with randoms and not talk, and then they would
They'd be
think
like,
you're
"He's
legit.
legit."
Like you're like a
It
consistent
was
diver.
yeah. Look, last time I went diving really clicked for me was when we would. I hadn't been out for a few months. I haven't been out for a few months since then, but like. I remember like I'm normally pretty fit, and because I did placements and stuff in the territory, I'd spent 5 or 6 weeks over there and didn't like go to gym, was running like once or twice a week if I had spare time, but it was just like early starts, late finishes for placements. So I sort of like was out of fitness. Came back and like first weather window was just like during the week, midweek, I took uni off. Ben's like, let's go diving. Did that and had the best day diving ever. I think I was just because I was so keen and just like relaxed too though. Like I'm real keen in the G up to a dive trip, and then once I'm out there, it's like just
business game face on.
So, but that was like real rewarding having it finally like click.
We did a few like sort of maybe a few weeks apart. We did a couple of regular trips, and it was cool to sort of like every trip we'd come back and sort of have a bit of a debrief like during the cleanup. And
How good is it to see other people's progression when you're in like your little niche that you've been doing for a fair while?
oh man,
And you see someone
we'll
come into it
get
and they're
to
like,
it. You'll have to tell a story of your first move, but we'd basically
we'll go
been,
like except me, but move story each.
we'll start yours off, Ayden. That one. We're not going to say where it was because it's secret.
in the ocean.
Go back to. I've got one question actually. Can we go back to the whole Ayden mentioned it before, which what clicked into my head is kicking on the way down. I'm not super experienced either, so I could be completely wrong. But I like to run slightly heavy, so I can do like 2 or 3 kicks and then I just glide, and hit bottom. And I find I get better breath hold doing that than slow kicking down.
Yeah.
So that
I like to be the
extra 2
opposite
meters.
personally because I like to be able to float on the surface fully relaxed, like not kicking at all. Like you were saying before, when you're watching that stalk, you sort of had to keep finning. I like to be able to float perfect, like not. So I prefer to be underweighted, so a little bit too buoyant, especially if I'm doing like 15s to 18s because from about everyone's like body composition's a bit different, but I'm pretty dense. So I can glide running the weight setup that I run from about.
And what is that?
4 meters. So I typically run like a 1.5 mil suit. Sometimes I'll go a slightly thicker jacket, so a 3 mil. And I pretty much always will use only 2 weights. So 2 3-pound, which is a fair bit less.
I'm 1.5 and 3.
And you're using
3
the whole,
1 pound.
so you're using 30% more weight than me.
So 3 1-pounders.
So I'll go 2 weights and I'll double the thickness on my top half basically. And I find from like I can lie perfect, like fully prone flat on the sand in the bottom in like 4 or 5 meters still. So I can be gliding from like 2-3 meters down. So I can free fall basically the whole way, but still be positively buoyant on the surface. And I also know that those first few kicks off the bottom, say if I've done a deeper drop to like 18 or deeper, those first few like kicks of my ascent are a lot easier with 2 weights as opposed to 3.
Yeah.
You ever get that feeling where you push off the bottom and you're like, oh, this is...
I've got to work
I'm
hard to
working
get
here.
up.
Yeah.
I
So
definitely-
I want my
definitely
ascent to be the easiest it can be.
What are you, Jai?
Yeah. I'll actually change my weight most days out there depending on what the ground I'm on is. And usually like the rules I run off is depending on the depth between 5 meters and 5 meters off the bottom or halfway to the bottom, depending on the depth. I aim for neutral buoyancy. So if I'm in 4 meters chasing trout and crays, I'll go pretty heavy because I want to be neutral around 2 meters and I want to be heavy on the bottom. There's nothing worse when you're
And you
trying
keep,
to
like, lifting,
hold
it's
fish.
like, fuck,
And
that's what
and
I
like,
hate.
when
Like,
it's
a full
real
scorpion over
flighty
your head.
fish, it won't work. So
Yeah.
I load up pretty heavy in shallow, but as soon as I go deep, I'd start dropping them off, leave them in the boat because, around 5 meters from the bottom, it's nice to be able to just glide for that last little bit of the descent down. And then the same on the way back. I don't like that feeling of really heavy when
Having
you're
it all
going to
off the
come back
bottom.
up. And it's good. I try and really control my dive. So on the way up, I'll try and kick for half the way up. And if I'm weighted right, maybe half to 2/3 of the way up, I'll stop kicking and just glide with the momentum.
I like trying to push my breath hold that way. Not silly push it, but like I like trying to come up nice and slow and steady and consistent to see where my breath holds at and get a little bit more like training while I'm diving type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Like a bit
actually
more
works.
form and composure.
Yeah.
Like not like a panicked rush to the surface. Just
Yeah.
sort of like focus on your finning,
Yeah.
streamlining, all those sorts of things that make it a bit easier along
What
the
do
way.
you run, Ayden? Weights.
I'm similar to Rennie. I think I've got 2 and 1.5s.
Yeah.
Even through winter because I'm tough.
Fuck, man. Yeah. I don't know. I can't handle the cold water.
But the kicking on the way down is definitely a thing because I used to waste so much energy and oxygen just fanging it down to the bottom for no reason.
So
And
like,
a
I'm like-
slow descent, while it seems like counterintuitive that you're taking longer to get down there, you stay way more relaxed. Also, you don't spook the fish. If you can tuck your gun in nice and close, tuck your chin, and just get a nice streamline and glide most of the way down, it's way less like intrusive for any of those like flightier fish. So if you can get that sort of free fall as much as you can, and you'll just maximise your dive time overall, I think.
Yeah.
I've got a story I wanted to bring up with you that's probably one of the sketchier things we've done up here.
Yep.
And it involved diving
yeah.
a very local spot
Yeah.
in the middle of winter because we wanted to shoot barra.
How many details are we going to give away? I don't mind. I'm happy to
Well,
go.
I won't say, we've seen people spearing there. We won't say exactly where, but if you can figure out, there's not that many places where there are stinger nets local to Townsville. And that's where this story took place. So basically it was all through winter we'd been keeping an eye on the visibility inshore, trying to pick a day where we had like a bit more viz to make these couple of spots diveable. And we made the call. We're like, right, we're going to do this. We'll suit up. We'll get in the water and just see how we go. Try and crawl along the bottom in a couple of meters viz and try and spot a barra. I'll let you probably take the story from here because
Yeah, I think
I'll chime in where my perspective was.
from
interesting.
memory, we did it over 2 days because didn't we?
That's right, we did too. Yeah.
We went out the first day and it sort of became evident that the lifeguards basically said, get out of here. And we thought, well, all right, then we'll get out of here. And we came back a bit earlier the next day.
Yeah, before the shift
before
started.
they were out of bed. And we went out and creeping along. And I think
So we're along the back of a stinger net, basically, where there was like a lot of, the water was just like thick with prawns.
Yeah, and I think, Ben, you saw a barra first. You dived down, you came up and you're like, there's a barra.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what?
So what I'd seen, I was crawling along the base of this stinger net, looking up into the light, trying to see the silhouette. And I've actually looked through the net, which was on my right-hand shoulder, and on the inside of the net, there's just a silhouette of this big barra sitting mid-water. And I just like, all my composure just went out the window and I've just rocketed to the surface and just like scrambled to get the words out of like, Jai, there's a really big barra, but it's on the inside of the net, like that way. And Jai didn't waste any time at all. He's just duck dived straight down. I've just watched his fins just like disappear. We're in like 3 meters of water and I can hardly see him on the bottom.
Yeah, and we should add that people do swim around the stinger nets, and we were very careful to make sure that there was no one.
This was on
nearby
daybreak,
swimming.
and the whole enclosed swimming nets was empty.
Yeah,
We'll just
we were
preface it with
watching that.
it sounds really sketchy, but it was deserted. We had it to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, but yeah, it went down, and sure enough, the silhouette came in on the other side of the net, and the holes in the mesh. I thought, yeah, that's fine. I can shoot through that. So I lined it up. The thing actually went out of visibility by the time I got the gun lined up. So I shot where I knew it had gone, and fortunately, there was a weight on the end when I brought it back.
I just hear Jai's gun go off, and his reel, the sound of a gun reel just like peeling line. I'm just like, you're kidding. He's hit the thing. And he's rocketed to the surface. He's like, man, I plugged it. We're on. The next second, he's put his like torso up over the floating pontoon that holds the net, and he's just like like a seal. It was just like porpoise dived over and like forward rolled and then just
super
disappeared.
quick and inconspicuous, so no one could see.
Navy SEAL spec, and then it just all
One
goes
smooth
quiet,
motion.
and I'm like, I'm just like floating with like just my eyes out of the water, just like, where'd he go? Like, what's happening? Has he got it? Next second, barra tail just flogs me in the head as he just throws it back over the net at me, and porpoise dives back over, and I'm just bear hugging this barra, going like, no way, this has not just happened.
How big was it?
Like a good fish.
Yeah,
like
it was in the
high
70s
Oh,
or
it was-
80s, I think. Somewhere around there, yeah.
It was solid. And then, yeah, we were just like, right, let's get out of here. I'm like nervous as all hell now. Like, we've ticked this box. We're never doing this again.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so we even did duck dives to sneak on away from the net.
That's right, we did.
We were
Not to
fully
attract
stealth. We
attention.
were like, yeah, we're getting in and we're getting it done and we're
Wrapped
getting
it
out.
up in the It was perfectly legal to spear there. People dive there all the time, but we've like wrapped it up in a wetsuit as we've carried it back to the car and keeping it under wraps.
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry to do that again, though. It was
Nah.
way too sketchy.
There
Because
are-
they do see crocs there.
Yeah.
Yeah, many crocs there. Moose stories.
Well, I've
Moose
told two, I think,
Moose
because my first fish
Your
was
first
a
one
moose
was-
Oh,
story,
yeah,
and
true.
that shark
Shark.
story was a moose story.
Yeah,
so
true.
happy to
How many
hand
moves
over.
you shot?
Oh,
I've shot a
Lots.
few. I've had some rough days on them as well, but yeah, I've had a few.
most trips.
Yeah, it's usually some form of they're around. I go down, I find some overhang to get under, wedge myself as deep under there as I can, and sit and wait and hope for the best. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I had
Yeah, what about Ben?
one cracker day. Pretty sure you were out there.
I think so.
It's a day Strick came and boated for us.
Yep.
Yeah. So we were like in the lagoons for a fair bit. Super fishy day. It was like one of those like real aquarium days. Schools getting around this lagoon of like mixed in with like red bass, permit, spangos, moo, heaps of stuff going on. And there was this like mega school of moo. I don't think I've ever seen them in a school of upwards of probably like 30 before. And I sort of just had to like calm myself down and be like, right, if you play your cards right and like take your time here, you have a pretty good chance of like getting one, because you know as a school they're probably going to be a bit more confident together. And something I picked up from you, like you just touched on before, Jai, was getting like as a bit of cover and as much in shadow, especially because they find it you can't quite see into the shadow, but from the shade you can see out really well.
Yep.
So yeah, tucked in sort of under this ledge a little bit and just left sort of one shoulder sort of sticking out, just enough that there was something for them to see and try and pique their interest. And with moo, I've found there's a few different techniques you can do to like try and pique their curiosity a little bit. And the two I've found best for moo's scratching a bit of coral together, like crumbling rocks or coral together, and puffing a bit of sand like a stingray's feeding. Did a bit of that, and had sort of one particularly good fish sort of shoulder its way through the school and present a really good shot. And yeah, pretty straightforward shot, plugged it, took it back to the boat, high fives, everyone's pretty happy. Went back, found the school again, they weren't too spooked, basically identical dive. So that first moo I shot was a new PB, like that was well and truly the best moo I'd shot. And then a little bit further up the lagoon, same thing, fairly sort of like long bottom time. That particular dive I spent, I look back on the GoPro footage, there's probably about 20 or 30 seconds of just sand grains because I've got my face like angled down, pressed into the sand. I find moo and a lot of other fish, they get a lot more confident when there's that broken eye contact. I think they're really, like, they've got a huge eye, they've got really good vision. They're quite aware when you're, like, looking directly at them. Like, they can sense when your attention's really focused on them. So breaking that eye contact really piqued their attention. Another big one, pushed it through the school, good shot, again, landed it, and that was another upgrade on my PB. So that was pretty special. Both of those moo went over 60, which I haven't shot one that big in a while, but yeah, to upgrade 2 PBs within the space of about 5 minutes, that was pretty special.
Yeah, they were good
Wow.
fish.
Right, Ayden. Everyone's looking at you. What's your moose story, brah?
My moo definitely wasn't that big. But yeah, no, it was pretty cool. We'd had a good day diving. For me, it was pretty cool. I managed a few trout and was just like, diving really well, feeling really good. And we went from like the deeper stuff. I think I was pushing close to 20 that day. and then came in. We did a few dives in like a bit shallower water, like 10 meters, and was like just shooting well, feeling really confident, and sort of wrapping it up. And we're sort of like switching between Bodie, and I think it was I'd just been Bodie, and the boys had done well and were passing me a few fish. And we jumped in at this really like fishy sort of lagoon spot, and it was a lot straight away. Like I normally start cramping later on in the day, but I was feeling pretty good. And it was nice to just dive like, I think it was 6 to 8 meters of water, if that. But one of the other boys had just shot a fish, and I was sort of waiting for him to go and drop it off at the boat. And I don't know what had happened, but in the space of like a minute, there was just all these different fish species. There was like long-nosed emperor. There was a big red-throat emperor, which I was sort of half lining up on, just like I'd seen it go under a bit of coral. And unlike spangos, they're sort of like a bit more secretive. Like they almost think you haven't seen them, and they'll just hide. Whereas a spango, like they're more constantly sort of moving and
They just keep doing loops and looking at you.
yeah.
Red throat kind of, they play the camouflage card and think like if they remain still enough, you won't see
What are
them.
those other little fuckers that go under ledges and you go looking like under there looking for trout and shit, and there's those weird looking
Huge eye?
Yeah, yeah.
We were talking
They're
about
like
that today.
a yellow
The real red
oh,
snapper.
They're not a yellow lip emperor.
one Brock posted a photo of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they?
I'll pull it up, Jamie.
Pull up. Jamie. Sorry, keep telling your story, mate.
Yeah, so I'd seen like, there was a little red emperor, like undersized, but it was awesome to just see in like 6, 7 meters of water. And then I'd seen like, it was cool because Ben was always like, on our dive buddy sort of stuff, was like pointing to fish, and then I'd go up to the surface and be like, oh, is that a Robinson? Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Robbo.
Yeah, we've seen heaps of Robos in
And,
shallows lately. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Don't say that. Just claim it. It was out of 30
I
meters.
thought it was a moo.
It was huge.
Yeah, because I saw the
thought-
eye and I thought, yeah, this
They
is a moo,
hover.
but
They do that
it
hover
wasn't.
like.
I thought it was a
glide.
moo too,
Yeah,
but bandless and like no, like, yeah, just different sort of coloration.
That's the thing, because sometimes moo just look full silver, like no black band, no like bands or red, whatever.
That's when you were like, no, it's similar, like good pickup, but it's a Robinson and stuff. Like those little things have stuck by me now. Like once I see something once, it's like, oh, cool, all right, I know what that is.
What's that? Trout Saturday.
Get your trout out. But yeah, like there was just like a massive fish in front of me, and then it was sort of like all sandy, and these two coral like ledges sort of came from right and left, but they didn't quite meet. And then in the middle there was like probably 20 meters of just like open sand, and then right in the middle this like pillar of like a little bommy. And I just saw this moo out the back of it, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like there's so many fish passed up on the red throat emperor, because I'd shot a couple of them previously. And was like, I'm going to like put in a good stalk for this moo. Like it doesn't know what I am. And I just like, almost similar to deer hunting, lined up like that last tree, that last cover, and made sure the moo couldn't see me. Was breathing in, like from on top of the water, and the bommy come right up to the surface. So I was pretty much covered by it the whole way in. And I couldn't see the moo, but I knew it couldn't see me, obviously, because I was hidden. And then got into about a metre or two from the bommy, did this real calm duck dive, and just like snuck in and got to the edge of it. And I'd noticed that the moo from being like 20 metres out the back, the viz was insane this day. It was ridiculous. It was
It's
like 30
always
to 40
good there.
metres.
We
It was stupid.
when we first rocked up.
No one's fucked up and let a name slip yet.
Oh
No,
no!
I'm
I'm
nearly
being
not.
really careful.
I nearly did.
I'll burn the equipment.
Not blowing
if
it up.
This is
Snap the SD
On
card.
Guthrie's podcast just before I had to like mute I had to like chop a heap of
Bleep it.
I had to chop and change a heap of fucking dialogue to cut out like one word.
True. You'll have to tell me what it was. I'll listen back,
I will,
see if I
yeah.
can figure it out. But this particular spot, we rocked up and we're like sussing which way the current's running and where we're going to start. And Ayden is just leaned over the side and gone, Ben, what's the sounder reading at now? And I was like, oh, like 37, 38. And he's like, man, I can, no joke, see the bottom. And I was like, you're kidding.
Yeah, it
we
was
pulled up and we're
ridiculous.
like, yep, I can see bommies in 37
We
meters.
were like dead set zooming over the flats. When I say flats, it was like 10 meters of water. And I'm like, holy shit, that was a big trout. Pulled up in the boat. Ben dived in, and I don't know if you smacked it. You found it.
spooked him off. But we found the exact trout. We just hooned
like
over.
a 60 centimeter trout that we just passed over going like 10 knots or something. But
Back to you, Moo.
yeah, so got into this bommy and had been like pretty calm and chilled. Did my little duck dive and was concealed by this bit of structure the whole time. poked my just my right side of my face around it and saw the moo had been at 20 meters, had come right in and was only 6 or 7 meters on the other side of the bommy. So I just ducked back behind. I had my gun by my side, and it just went out to the left of the bommy. I saw it over there. It saw me and sort of did a bit of a zigzag. And as it sort of went back around to the right, I sort of kept moving my body around back to the left, so it couldn't see me again. And then when it didn't see me on the right hand side, it did a big swim by closer, and it did that twice, maybe 3 times. And I was just very conscious that I was starting to get a bit out of breath. This has been going on for a little while, but it just kept coming closer and closer, and I just knew that I was going to let it go out of sight one more time. And as it came back closer, I sort of half was leaning out, and as it came through, it was just perfect, and I just smashed it, and really good shot. And I was very I think you guys do it well, where you swim over to the fish too.
Recover them straight away,
get
them out of
a good hold on them, or get your line back so that they can't wrap around anything. But yeah, I just remember being so stoked because it was the first move I had a shot at, and was able to
You'd only probably seen 1 or 2 before that.
You'd seen 1 or something. But most of them that was probably one of the. I'd seen smaller ones and then one larger one that other time we dived.
Yep.
And I remember just seeing it and being so excited. I was like, holy shit, boys, this is massive. And you were both in the boat come on, we're moving. And I was just
guys, I think I found
huge.
A proper one.
It was massive. And the fish I shot was
it was a good mid, it was mid-size one. Your next meal will be an upgrade.
Oh, well, this other thing
confident.
was gnarly compared to it.
Yeah.
So
when they get big, they get a big hump on their head and
it
real
was
steep forward.
Yeah.
And
it was honestly twice the width and everything.
Yeah.
But
I was Bodie at that particular time, and I was sort of aware where Ayden was, and I see him pop to the surface, and the sort of the signal of come swing by me is the butt of the gun sticking up in the air. I've scooted over to him, and I'm sort of expecting another trout because it was a very trouty day. And I see he's got sort of silver in one hand. I was like, oh, it's something different. And I see black and red, and he's holding it up in one hand, just fish in one hand, fist pumping the other. And I'm just the most stoked I've been all day. Yeah. He's just shot the first move. He's put in so much work for it. And it was the best feeling as Bodie going over to pick it up, and just everyone was that stoked.
I could tell you were stoked too. It was satisfying for me knowing that I'd almost made you proud because you'd given me hundreds of tips over not a long time, but each day, it was
like that
gone out.
The trip before when we did that sort of real planned approach on that school of Spangos, and it worked. It was that was the dress rehearsal.
Well, that's what it's literally been for me. Is trout, and now I'm very confident with, and that's my expectation is if I can get a couple of trout for food and then just have a good day out, that's awesome. But lately it's been real progression based on hey, that's a cool species, see those Spangos, they do this, let's try and your breath holding's there now where you can stay under a bit. This is what I like to do. And then knowing what certain species are, what they do, it's similar to bow hunting where you go, all right, cool, you just need to find that cover. Their curiosity will be their downfall if you can hold bottom time for long enough and stuff. So it's been good.
That's where I fall out with Spangos.
Can't be bothered.
It is, and they always and you're
oh, speaking of
literally
that was
doing
good. If I was a jobby, I'd have come into that.
Oh, the amount of times with Spangos, I'm no, stay down. Because the best thing about Spangos is that often it's 6 meters of water or something compared to 18.
Not a big
swim.
swim.
A bit more bottom time.
So you're okay, if I can really push it, and you've got a buddy there, and you're I'm not worried about blacking out necessarily, but it's more just I can race to the top if I have to. I don't have to be composed.
He'll shoot you in the leg and pull you up for sure.
But with them, it's sometimes I'm honestly doing those convulsions and contractions for a while, being come in, you bastards. And they just know. And then as you kick off to go up, they just oh, cool, I'll come in now. You're just you little prick. You want to shoot them from the top almost.
Yeah.
But no, it's been very addictive.
I'm trying to think what other good dive stories there have been. Other than the first time that, not the first time, but...
Let's talk about Ayden's beauty.
Yeah. So Ayden had been talking up this one reef for a long time that he dove before we caught up and started diving. And I was always...
Was that when he got fucking...
That was the first time we went to the motherland.
Yeah, so we'd been to a few of these boys' spots.
Yeah.
And they'd always ask me where have you gone? No, they were good, just different. And I've been privileged, going
How
out.
about we'll just pause on the very being a very crook story. The first time you boys dived together, dropped you in, and within like 10 minutes, that huge Spanish, there was probably like 20 plus kilo.
Throws Jai through the water. For like 5 meters.
Jai goes water skiing while his reel empties, and then he hits the end of his reel and just has to hold on and just gets water skied across the top.
Yeah, big fish. Didn't want to, unfortunately not. It had so much pace. It stripped 30 meters of line off my reel in the time it took me to get from 6 meters down to the surface. And as soon as I got to the surface, the reel was empty, and it just had so much momentum that when it just yanked the spear pretty well straight out. It had sort of a couple of meters of water skiing and then straight off. But it was really big. Yeah.
Because you boys were coming, I was picking you up, we were going to go to another drift, and I see both your heads pop out of the water, and you both just turn and look at each other, and you just like through the snorkel speak is one of those languages that you can, when you hear it enough, you can hear it perfectly from a distance. And through the snorkels, I just hear, holy shit, that's big. And your both heads just go straight back into the water. Yeah. And then you're sort of looking at each other like, who's going to dive? And then...
No, I was hoping you were going to dive because it sort of come under me and then veered to the right, and Jai was literally like perfectly on the right. And I was like, if you dive now, my only concern was that you hadn't had enough time to sort of breathe up because it wasn't like it was fairly deep because we were drifting, but it was like mid water level. But like it worked out perfectly. Like it literally, I just watched it go like arc over to you. You already had your gun sort of half lined up parallel to it where it was heading, and it just like swam into the shaft basically. Like it was perfect.
Such a shame.
Then it boosted.
I just changed my rubbers on my gun. That was the first shot with the new rubbers, and they didn't have the power that the old ones had, so I hit it low, which was a real shame. It's always good to test your equipment when you go changing things.
I put just made me think of that. Like my 1300 this weekend, just gone. I got new rubbers put on there. Same diameter but small bore.
Yep. That's what I had. Yeah.
And I felt, I don't know if it was just me not diving for a while, but I was shooting high on everything.
Yeah.
And I wondered if my rubbers were like too punchy then. And I was getting like either shaft warp or some form of fucking kick, or...
It might have been... You might just be used to it having a little bit of drop, and it might not be dropping now. Because what colour were they?
Those orange...
Micro ball ones.
Micro ball.
Yeah.
There's a name for them fucking things. A brand name. Can't remember. Anyway.
Because mine was the opposite. I was running Rob
I don't think
Allen
you
rubbers.
had much pre-tension either. Like,
nah,
that's a whole...
Yeah, that's... I'd need to have a pre-tension with
mine
those
were
ones.
Factory Rob Allen's on a Sambaroo.
Yeah.
1300. And then I put those small bore ones, and they just... I don't know. I'm just got to get used to them, I think. I need to get in this pool.
Gun rigging's one of those things. It's like once you find... And I'm guilty
Remember
of it.
you were getting all that weird shit happening with those rollers?
Yeah, that was whack.
You're very like... You almost scare me to the point with like with my bow. It's like I just know do the same thing over and over again. Use the same equipment for as long as you can, and like you've got a recipe for success. Like the rest is on you. Whereas like every time we went diving, you were like, "Oh, I've done this and changed the shaft, and I've changed that like rubber," and I'm like, "Fuck!" It sounds like you've got a different gun every time, which is like your gear. Like whereas for me, I've had the same gun for like.
That 5 I was trying to base it like because I didn't have access. Like I needed to pull test some stuff, but I was basically just like changing one thing of the equation each time, trying to like just get a particular gun dialed to where I was happy.
Do they still
with.
make those rifles anymore?
The one Aiden's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like I think they're like your one. The rifle you use is like a rifle. It's like a competition something or other.
Like narrow, tall, skinny one.
Yeah.
I want it.
The Trout Slayer 6000.
Are you going to get like the Trout body count like engraved in the side of it?
Yeah,
I might have to get the stock length.
Well, you shot your jack with it.
Yeah, stone.
It's a bloody nice shooting gun.
Did you stone a jack?
I stoned a fucking
No,
jack.
you're kidding.
Wait, I haven't even told that story yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Nah, no.
Where were we? We've digressed.
I have no idea.
Big
Ayden being
Spanish.
crook. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Righto.
Oh yeah,
You can start
when
it
I
off.
first met Ben, obviously it was his boat, and then I met Jai through Ben, and like knew that they'd dived together previously and stuff. So I'd been out of diving I didn't really get into it that much in 2017, and then had a big break. Finally come back, and I was not going to be like, oh, we should go to this place that I know is like
Can't call him a
every
shots.
time, and like I think Ben half thought I was talking shit when I was like, I've literally gone and bagged out on trout pretty much every single time I've gone to the reef. Like,
Yeah, part of me was like, surely not, and part of me was also like, unless.
yeah, and like I'd shown him a few photos and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, they're pretty good fish," and like a few of them, like we'd always done pretty well. And again, like I'm not one for just like raping and pillaging sort of a resource, but for me it was
When there's like 5 or 6 bloats on the boat, it works out at like 4 fish each,
Oh,
which is
and
not excessive.
as well. I was like diving once maybe every 3 months, so it was like I'd have those 7 trout for the next 3 months and have the odd bit of fish, but yeah, long story short, eventually I was
Finally
just like,
talked me
why
into
don't we
it.
just like go to this spot? We've always had pretty good luck there, and like we used to do a bit of flashing and all that sort of stuff. But I swear to God, like maybe it's just because I was new to it, but there were always mackerel, and I always used to do well on the trout. I'm sure that now I know what a moo looks like. I'm sure I know what a spango looks like now. I'm sure that they'll be around, and then we finally like tee up this dive.
Find a weather window. We're all
You
there
guys
was
might be better off telling the story because I was pretty
well,
dusty.
basically, Ayden had locked in. Ayden was playing host for a house party, and he teed this up weeks in advance.
What would you do? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was
No,
about to-
the
I was
house
about to
party
blame him,
was-
so it was like
No, the house party was booked because it was end of semester.
it was like a big vet faculty one, and I've been talking to him for like the week leading up, being like, "Oh, weather could be good for that day." Like, and Ayden was kept mentioning he had a house party the night before, and I was like, "Oh man, like it's all good. Like we'll still make it work." And Ayden was very adamant that it was like, "Nah, diving will be priority number 1. We'll take it easy the night before, and we'll be ready to go." We're going to Ayden's spot, like he's all the stars have aligned, and I went around to Ayden's place. The house party's kicking off. I was picking up his gear to pack the boat the night before. And I just remember thinking like, oh, Ayden's seemed pretty rowdy. And as I left, I've just like gone, Ayden, make sure we're sticking to that 1-to-1 beers for waters and we'll be good for tomorrow. And as I leave, I'm just like, oh no, this like, this doesn't bode well. I get a snap from his housemate at like midnight and Ayden is plastered. And I just remember thinking like, there is no way this bloke is going to be in any state to dive tomorrow. 4 o'clock roll or 3:30 rolls around, and
Ayden's sitting here trying to look real cute. Look.
yeah, he's just mouthing the word sorry. I
While
end
he's
up
drinking his water.
yeah, good boy. 4 a.m. rolls around. Ayden's not here yet. He's usually always on time or early, so I was like, something's up. Ring his housemate. No, Ayden's still asleep, and I said, mate, kick that sorry fella until he wakes up and tell him to get his ass over here now because we're going. To his credit, he rocks up in about 10 minutes, not looking too bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. He's looking pretty dusty.
I'd interjection. I'd literally gone to bed at like 3. So not that like
had about 45 minutes sleep. Who knows what had gone on that night? I guess we'll never know. But we've hooked the boat up. We're heading out the driveway, and Ayden just goes to me, he's like, Ben, is there anything that I can just like have on my lap in case I feel sick? I go and get the bailing bucket out of the safety kit in the boat, and he's just sitting with his head between his knees in the front seat, throwing up into the bailing bucket. And this is on the drive to the ramp, and I'm just like, oh God, this is not a good start.
You smacked the trout up.
Eventually.
listen, like the day felt like it went for 3 weeks for me. I was just like, this is fucked the whole time. And my biggest thing was like, you've literally
Talked this spot up for months.
No. It was more just like pure self, like not pity. It was just like
It was self-pity.
regret. No. I was like, you deserve to feel like the most dead shit ever because you've fucking potentially ruined their days. Like they now, like I'm not savvy and all that. Like it's just one, you should never do it, and because diving's such a thing that you need to be safe with. Like you're constantly at risk. But
Jai was only just saying before. It's like
Jai's also a bad motherfucker. You don't want to be caught
Ayden
out of the
won
reef,
some-
like when he's
Ayden-
pissed at Jai.
Ayden won some massive brownie points in Jai's eyes because he was like, man, I can't believe this guy's still going. Like, kudos to him. He's soldiering on.
I just remember getting like
The boat trip out, you were so quiet, and usually
Yeah.
you're the hype man on the trip
Yeah.
out. You're G'ing everyone up, you're bloody high-fiving and bum
I was
tapping and getting
winning.
everyone keen. He did not speak
I remember-
for the whole trip out, just head between his knees.
I remember you boys being like, oh look, dolphins.
That's
and I'm
right.
like,
I tried to get a reaction out of it. We had dolphins on
your
the bow.
dolphins. Like I'm just
Jumping
thinking,
all
like,
over the place.
get me the fuck there so this can stop moving. And like it was pretty much glassy, wasn't it?
It was.
It was like
Yeah, it was
best
great.
day
Glamour
ever.
day. We pull up out there and we're like, this is unreal. Viz is primo. We're like, oh, hey, Aiden, we're at the spot. Fire up.
I remember just being like, you boys, I'll go boaty.
That's
you
right.
guys go and have fun.
I need to stop spinning.
But halfway through that, I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, wake. Like, I remember just sitting there and gathering fire for a sec because there was no like, I remember just the noise of the boat, the motor, and me sitting at the back, just head between my knees, being like,
That's
fuck,
that
this
nice
is
petrol.
so- yeah, literally, like, could
Good
smell
thing it's
that
not
fuel.
two-stroke.
I'd have been laid up on one of them fucking like strap yourself to one of
The water
Yeah.
just like
The
slapping under the bow of the
hog-tied
boat.
yeah. Should have just hog tied into one of the fucking
The
tubes and just laid him there.
Dead, like everything, like the sound of it, the boat just like humming along, and then once it finally stopped and it's just like trickled when I was boaty, I was like, all right, fuck, like you're fine, you're out on the reef, do not waste a fucking day, like pull your shit together. And this is on like an hour of sleep, feeling that pure shit, hadn't drank anything, hadn't eaten anything, thrown my absolute guts up, and then like, and I remember just like you boys jumped in. I was like bright and alert because I was like, oh yeah, obviously I had a responsibility to like be watching them, and it was ripping current too.
ripping current and super fishy. It was on that.
And yeah, these boys yelling out like fucking big mackerel, and I'm just sitting there trying to like drink some water without throwing it straight back up, which I couldn't do. Like it was literally like 2 sips and then throw it all back up.
All day.
All day, it was
No food,
fucked.
no water. Like a regular day spearing takes
I'd
it out of
proper
you.
ruin myself.
And he's just come into it like completely at rock
On
bottom
ground
and
zero.
then not being able to do any of the things that would make you feel better for the whole day.
What killed
I eat
me?
like a fucking machine when I die.
I don't eat
Yeah,
much. I
nah,
smash
I eat
water.
fucking
I'll have like
heaps.
minimal food.
and always thirsty.
I remember just
Yeah.
what killed me most is like I've got a fair
you
bit of
trying to
pride
suit up
and like
was watching like trying to watch a. Oh, it was
but I'm
painful
competitive
watching you in a
like with
wedding.
sports and stuff, like super competitive. I don't like playing sports unless I'm going to win, whatever it is. Like with my team, sort of
Doesn't
thing.
play well with others.
No, like with my team, like I'll do anything in the game
I'm the
to
same.
win. But it goes the
hate
same with
losing.
diving. I'm like, I don't see the point of like fucking around, sort of thing. Like it's a serious thing for me. And then I just remember like not being able to dive to my capabilities was like so aggravating. And I swore that day I was just like, I'm never doing this again. And like, yeah, it's just like that trip ate at me. And then
Yeah.
the following trip was a few months later.
That was
but
redemption.
yeah. I
But
was
that
redeemed.
trip you were feeling pretty crook. To be fair, you got in your wetty, you got in the water.
It took me 45 minutes
That
to
was
get in
the
the
longest
wetsuit.
suit
I was
up I've
literally
ever
like
seen.
pale. And I remember just putting him on and like sweating profusely, being like, I'm going to pass out here. Like I have to just jump in the water and get cool. Did that, got out and was just sitting there like...
There's
Probably,
there's
probably done you
footage
the world
of
a good,
the
like, sweating your ring out. Getting rid of some
the
alcohol,
footage
maybe.
of so we ran between we moved spots slightly. We were following the current up.
Do you remember me whispering, being like, can you hurry up? Like get to the
I
next
do
spot?
remember
Because
that.
I was just
you were also
cooking at the front of the
you know
boat.
the footage where he's on the bow,
Yeah.
just flat on his back, like asleep, like fully kitted up, still got fins on, like blowing in the wind.
Did I tell you how I dived and got to... I saw a trout and the viz was... This is like a clear as hell day.
Yeah.
The viz would have been like probably 20, 30
Easy
metres.
20.
I saw a trout on the bottom, started diving, got to about 10 metres and was like, fuck, this is way too far. All the pressure just like compressed my stomach and stuff, threw up in my snorkel.
Oh, you didn't tell me this.
Swam up to the top and was like, all right, I'm diving shallows today. Like just watch this good trout
Yeah.
at the bottom and I was like, dirty. But then, yeah.
You came
still
good.
shot a
Back
couple
half of the
trout.
day, still shot a couple of trout, still put a couple in the bag.
But it was
That
just
was,
like a massive regret.
Was also that day that had the first jobby heartbreak.
Every time I hear trout, I think it's Saturday.
Me too.
But yeah, jobbies have been one of those fish that have given me the runaround
Every
the last
Saturday.
few trips.
There was a few there, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, in the similar spot, each time we've gone back there's been a couple working an edge.
One from 7 ain't bad.
One from 3. No, one from 3.
One
Yeah.
you got was pretty small.
It was small, but you got to start somewhere, I guess. Yeah, they've been that one fish that's been really high on my bucket list to try and tick off. Pretty smart. They fight pretty hard.
They reef you.
They do reef you.
Talking about
If you-
trout.
No.
To your credit, like the grunting's been working really well though. That was the first
Yeah, it
time I
has.
saw it, and yeah,
The grunting, bit of like scratching on the reef. It's sort of taken like a lot of blown opportunities to try and like, okay, that didn't work. Don't do that again. wait until you get another opportunity. All right, we're going to try this. When they do this particular, like when they look really confident, they're coming in hot and aggressive, like that's your chance to slowly like propel off from your hiding spot and try and stretch out and take a shot. But the two I've connected on, it's just been like shot placement that's like let me down. Jobby's like being one of those fish that just fight really hard. You've got to have a secure shot that you can really haul ass on and turn them away from the reef. To have a couple rip outs, pretty devastating. It's not. You definitely don't go out with the intention.
I remember this. I think I've
to
been
shit
boaty
shot
both
them,
times that they've pulled out, and just hearing like fuck, and like you screaming.
You can hear it on the GoPro,
And just like
GoPro
Yeah.
footage when he's still
Underwater.
down on the bottom.
like,
Bubbles
down.
are coming out as he's coming up.
Scratch the water. You get up, your gun's just like tangled everywhere, and then you like
Yeah.
slap the water and like fuck.
Yeah.
But it's always after like a good dive, like a minute, probably 30. I reckon.
Oh,
Good
what's so
dives.
frustrating? It would have almost been better if I'd like blown the store completely and they'd bailed to get like within distance, and just like it's been a matter of like a couple of inches difference between like a gill shot, like a gill plate holding shot that's not going to tear out, and like the back of the neck that's just soft enough that, you know, when they rinse you through the reef, that is just like they're not a really like tough, like scaly fish like some of your like emperor species like the shots tend to hold really well. And they're just so powerful. They just like they do that where they like turn upside down and just boost up through the reef, in through all the bommies, and it's usually all over. Ends in tears after that.
I'm keen to see one. I haven't seen one in the flesh.
I always see him at the back of shit. I've never shot any, never attempted to shoot any, but I've always seen them diving at the back of schools of stuff. Like,
Yeah, they're not really. I've not seen them in like the small one I shot recently was in a school of maybe like 3 or 4, if you can call that.
I've never
school.
seen any together though.
The big ones, as soon as they get big, which the first 2 were like solid fish, they were probably like 5-6 kilo. They were both solo. But yeah, like you said, they do tend to.
Shoot 'em?
Oh, I did. They just
They
rinsed me.
seem to be like just in depth where it drops off.
Yeah,
and
they
they must
love
be able
it.
to see
Yeah,
like where
yeah.
the bait fish are getting pushed in, and like because you've almost come from the shallower side each time, drop down.
Yeah, and they've come up from the depths to
Yeah.
meet me. Yeah, definitely.
It's cool. They're pretty like got a bit of mystique to them.
Yeah,
I haven't seen one.
They got
like-
attitude, man. They swim around the reef like they're the boss.
They got heads
They're
like
not scared
a
of anyone.
dragon, man.
They-
Like when you look
like
on face
Komodo
on,
dragon, they do look like that, eh?
pretty badass.
Yeah.
Tell me, we should probably try and wrap this up.
Yeah,
Soon. We're
let's
going
do it.
for like an hour and 20, and then the one before I hit stop was like 35 minutes or some shit. So it's a good couple
Let's add
hour
it up there.
podcast. Let's
I
I
think
do
what
want
else
to chat
stories
about.
has
We'll go back down south, and I want to chat about those mad fucking big tuna that you dudes chase.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. I've got no leg to stand on with this at all.
Have you chased
So-
them?
Yeah, just with the rods. I didn't get any on spear. I've had a few friends get them on spear though. But because the tuna have just seemed to be picking up in sort of recent years down there, getting better and better. And they were coming in. Some days they were.
What's the process? Like to
It's
go and
seasonal, I
target
think.
them?
I think it's the summer approach is very different to the winter approach.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to have. It's sort of started, at least for me, with the winter run, and there's certain times in winter where there'd just be birds diving, and there's a good chance there'd be tuna that they would, tuna and bait that they were diving on, and there were days when they were a kilometre offshore, so people started taking all sorts of things out there, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a go with the jet ski. Found a few schools inshore, and I didn't have much luck. I managed to hook one and lose it right at the jet ski, which was a shame because I'd tried a new knot that the fishing store showed me that day, so I won't do that again. And
What knot was it?
might have been
Stitch up. That's what it was.
Bimini twist or something, maybe.
Yeah, right.
But I think I probably didn't do it justice either when I was tying it. Like I just stick with pretty basic stuff. I'm not the best line
Simple's
fisherman.
best.
Yeah, but one day, like the most memorable day and most successful was we went out, me and a good friend of mine. His name's also Ben, but Ben Kettle. He came down, we went out, and usually I'd just head out until I found the birds, and this day we'd heard they were a fair way out, and we ended up 40 k's out. We couldn't see the land anymore, but it ended up glassing out. We found a few boats out there, so we hung around them, and there was just there was birds sitting on top of the water, and there was just tuna just coming up and just dipping their backs out of it. And yeah, it didn't take us long to get them on the rods there. We would mostly just throw metals at them down there because they were eating a lot of small bait. So we were running like a 7-foot rod with 30-pound braid and 30 or 60-pound leader, and that was doing it because you could take a bit of time. There weren't many sharks down there. If you'd be unlucky if there was a white or something, and get them on that, fight them for anything from 5 minutes to half an hour on the gear and bring them up, and then head back in. We that day we had a compass on the jet ski, but it was a bit sketchy, so we ended up having to check with the boats which way land was. They pointed us in the right direction. We were like, all right, off we go. Headed off that way. And, you're flying along this jet ski. You got a tuna in each footwell. Your feet are just standing up on the tuna. You're skimming back to port. We didn't get any huge ones. They were sort of 15 to 17 kilos, those ones. But for Victoria, we were really happy with that. Like, it's not a lot of big fish you can get easily down there. So what's the process
with spearing them? Is like you're driving up on them and stuff as well and jumping in like, how close?
Yeah, so a few friends have got into them a bit down there more recently, and generally is that find an active bust up where the birds are all going, get up close, get the person in the water straight away, and they swim up to them, and some of them the tuna will go away and spook, but a lot of the time they'll still hang around and just dive down and get a shot. I think got to make sure you got a decent setup with gear. I'd be running at least a float line and a reel, or maybe a couple of floats just to be safe. Just make sure the boat's active and watching, ready to help out. And you see, the thing is, when you're diving around those sort of bust ups, you see all sorts. I've seen some footage from some friends down south doing stuff around Portland there, and there's whales coming through and there's dolphins, and like it's really nice footage that they get together. Cool. So
some of that footage, I think you're talking about James.
Nah, Callum Smith's got some really good stuff. Yeah,
there's a fella down there, James Beckman. He's southern spearfishing on Insta. Some of the best spearing footage or just diving footage in general you will see coming out of Victoria. There's a workup where he's looking down through like a bait school, and I think it's a big like southern right whale or something just comes up full mouth open, straight past his fin tips, breaks the surface, eating bait, and it's like looks straight out of like a David Attenborough docker. It's some pretty wicked footage.
Wild.
I think I've shown you that.
The waters there,
some of the stuff I've shown you.
The waters there are real rich, eh? Like they say the Great Barrier Reef waters are rich, but like you're talking like those cold water current places all over the world, but down south are like fucking rich, eh?
Yeah, there's an upwelling off Portland called the Bonnie Upwelling, so they get some really cold, rich Antarctic waters coming up there, which I think drives a bit of that productivity.
How's some of the local stuff, the tuna, when they're turning up, like just out the front of the bay, like off, like all the small boats are like going out like Porty and Sorrento, catching them in the heads. Like there's big barrels turning up there at the moment. In summer, it sounds really interesting that the Spearos are the blokes getting onto the tuna when they come up. The line fishers aren't doing too well because they're up on the surface like sunning themselves, and they're just switched off. They're not really feeding. So all the linos are annoyed at the Spearos are cashing in on them because they can get in like downwind of them and swim up to the schools of them, sunning them on the surface. It really sounds like that fishery is going from strength to strength. So
I like the idea of it. The concept of it.
You'll be down there trying to catch one fly sooner or later.
Probably. Actually, you
wouldn't.
And that
big 100-kilo barrel.
Fuck yeah.
6 hours later.
I'd get around it. I can get one.
Buy some new gear.
Oh, fuck. He's on. Would you trout strike it,
I would too. Fuck. Let's do a couple of questions.
We actually got some?
Yeah, I got a few.
Oh.
Got a few. We'll just do the top three.
Yep.
What's that question?
Oh, fuck.
Is this a nap story? I'm surprised I haven't been stitched up with a nap one yet.
I was going to ask whereabouts on the jet ski would you nap? Was there a desert?
Yeah, whereabouts on the jet
Rennie
ski
nap
is a
spot?
nappable spot.
I used to just hug Jai quite close. And
Did you nap in the jet
I'm
ski?
surprised you
No,
didn't
I
do
don't
that
think
when
I
you were
did.
cold on the beach.
Oh, we did. We 100% were spooning.
I think we might have.
Yeah, we
it's
definitely
getting
did.
pretty desperate.
Jai was mentioning before, I have a habit of falling asleep on boats, even in the roughest weather.
Yeah.
It's hectic. how you nap and where you nap and how long you nap for.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
I've worked many
Like,
years.
that would
on it.
have been
It's not just boats.
that big nap
Anywhere,
under that tree
yeah.
when we were talking to the property owner. How long was that?
Let's do it.
Oh,
2.5 hours?
Nah, hour and 20, I reckon.
You reckon? I feel like
Which is a long.
fucking
It was a
years,
long
eh?
time.
Long time.
Because you walked. Fuck, you just look so wrecked. You
No,
look like
it
a
was a
heroin
long
addict.
time because it wasn't that long in duration, but you were literally like in a coma.
Yeah.
The property owner rocked up in his like V8, and like
And we were all talking normal like
Slept through it.
volume.
yeah, there were 50 cows like 5 meters away.
Yeah,
It was
that was
stupid.
weird.
I'm a light sleeper, so I'm pretty jealous. Like even coming back from the reef,
I do
didn't-
remember some rough trips home in your
Yeah.
blue rib getting tossed around in the swell, but still kind of.
I had no
semi-
I
idea.
just refused to let myself sleep because I felt dog shit after it.
I didn't sleep at all on that last trip. You had money on me to pass out by the end of the day.
I'm surprised you
I was
didn't.
pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, and you didn't sleep that night either. Like we filled it all night and then ate a big feed, talked some shit, and I fell asleep.
Full mink.
Like I closed my eyes talking because I was
That's
like,
right.
fucking-
Standing up.
I was sitting up and like I closed my eyes for some reason to like reference, make a point or something, and then I didn't want to.
Yeah, I nailed
fell
that.
asleep halfway
I
through the
basically
point.
kept them closed because it was comfy. And
I remember looking over you and seeing your eyes closed, and you were just like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah,
Because
I
you're
remember
like
calling you
going
out.
downhill.
I called you out and was like 1, 2, counted to 6 or something, and was like, "That's 6 seconds, Wade. You won't get that back."
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly. And
Wait, that's not a hustling mentality.
it
right
is
there.
not. No, I don't. I don't.
What are these
contain killing
questions?
yourself. Any tips for slaying jacks? Horse jacks.
Oh, did you? That's you question.
I didn't.
No, guy.
I didn't ask.
Yeah, it's take a fella with you who's never shot one,
Have an
and
asshole of a day.
then snake him last minute
Have
so
an
he doesn't
arsehole
get a
of
chance.
Did I say the jack story?
Yeah, you did. Oh, like you said that it was through all the bait, and you saw it come out from the cave.
Yeah, that's close.
And then
enough.
you
Say it
stoned
again
it.
unless you want me to tell it. Like I was basically telling it then.
Nah, that's all good. I think I told it. Is that good? That'll do. Is that good enough? That'll do. I'll just fucking rub. Do you want to hear it? I feel like you want to hear it again.
Yeah, tell us.
We're all dying to hear it.
Did,
No,
have
it
you-
wasn't.
did you say it earlier?
I feel like I did. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I'm
we're
sure
on
you
air or
did.
not.
No, you did.
What
I'm
happened?
confident
I'll
you did.
rehash it. Wait, did you
Yeah.
hear about this time I smacked this fucking jack?
Nah.
Like stoned it. Didn't even vibrate. It
What sort
stoned
of
that
gun
well.
were you using?
I was using this fucking sick rifle I borrowed. Because I couldn't shoot.
Off my mate
39
who's never shot a jack before.
I like power swum in front of him so I could get to the bommy first.
Nah, I was dead set loading
That's the
the
oldest
roller
trick in the
behind
book.
you. Yeah. No, we were on our way home. It was like we dove. Well, it wasn't too late because the wind didn't actually get up, so we had no actual problem. But we stopped diving at like fucking 4:30 or something stupid. So it was maybe like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we were cruising home on the plane. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw this bommy, like this big brain coral, and I was like, stared at it for a bit, and I was like, "Oh, that looks fucking good." Nah, stop, turn around, and have a look. Pulled up and looked at it from a distance.
We were purposely in our wetsuits and stuff still. Because
Yeah,
we
we
were
were.
like, we'll
We were
just
looking-
pick our way back.
Yeah, we were like trying to pick like just standalone bombies on the way back out. Yeah, and I think we just jumped in. I swam over to it, and Ayden was in as well. And you were loading your gun, you said. Yeah, and I sort of come in from a distance, and there's like this big brain coral, and then it goes down to like I can't explain what the fuck it is. Will, you might know.
Like layered.
Did I explain that to you before?
Yeah, you were saying.
It looks like a fucking like a table, like a shelf with
Yeah.
just like bits of coral on it. Like it looks like it's like a piece of calcified, like a flat bone, like just
Yeah.
a big flat,
Yeah, it's a big. I think it's called,
like an old dead
yeah,
plate coral or something.
And then it's called CCA, which is crustose coralline algae. It like,
Across those
Nerd.
coralline algae.
it like calcifies stuff over the top of the reef.
I think
So
that's
that's why it will have like all the old coral still in it.
Yeah,
it like
what it looks
Yeah.
like, and it's like that. And then there was on one side of it there was like this big crevice, like a cave, like a legit cave, and then it went sort of down and sort of hit sand that tapered away to nothing. And then so I swam up to it, and there was like a big school of fusies. I could see 2 fish underneath it. There was fucking heaps of fish there, so it was actually lit up. There was like wongs and shit everywhere. There was small spangos. There was we're pretty confident there were MSPs. And I think I said that I definitely said that I was too fixated on something else.
Yeah, you had tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Jack.
And I was like, oh fuck, those 2 fish underneath there, like, is that a red bass or is it a jack? And I dove down, and there was 2 of them. And then the other fish just sort of swam off, and I didn't even know what it was. I think it might have been a smaller jack, maybe. And I swam down sort of on the bottom, crawled my way sort of upwards, and I was like underneath the school of fusies at that stage. And this fish was like sort of half swimming away from me up towards the cave. And I like followed it, and I was like, "Oh, you're a red bass, oh, you're a red bass." And then it turned and like broadside of me. I was like, "Oh, you're a jack, you dog."
A horse jack.
I said it in my head. I was like, "You dog, you're a jack."
Because we've been seeing red bass
Yeah,
all
some
day.
big
They were
ones too.
everywhere.
Yeah. So I had to borrow this rifle because I was fucking up shooting my 1300 bad, super unnecessary gun length, I guess. But I expected the water to be a lot cleaner, so 1300 would have been fine. Anyway, borrowed this rifle and I aimed and hit it exactly where I aimed, which was weird because I've never done that. And I fucking
No way.
I stoned it. That's a bit over exaggeration, but I stoned it to the point where like it wasn't even like it didn't even vibrate or like do a little circle or anything. It just went fucking just full limp dead.
Pop it with its strings
It was
cut.
just fucking dead. Got it back up, and I was like peeking. I think I got a high five from you on the way.
You were literally just coming like to the top, like you were about to break surface, and I could just see the jack in your hand, and I think I was like, "Hell, fucking yeah!" under the water. It took me like a minute to load the gun, and then I just saw it. I'm like, "Holy fucking shit! Is that a jack?" From
Yeah.
like 10 meters away? Because not even. It was probably like 5 meters because Viz wasn't
Yeah.
that good, but it was clear on top.
Yeah.
And then I think you got stoked when you saw how stoked I was.
I got like the hype.
That's what I
man.
keep saying. Ayden is the hype man. Everyone just feeds off his energy.
I got way more hype after that. Like after I got the high five. And
You
shit, I
were
was like,
chilled. When you got to the top, you were like, "Oh, cool." Like, yeah. And I was like, "Fuck, is that a jack, dude?" And
My hero.
swam over and high-fived you. And
Yeah.
I was like, "That's a horse." And yeah, I got real keen. And then I was keen because I was just like trying to calm myself because I was like,
You did a fair few drops on that by me.
"Oh, I waited for you to get back to the boat because I was like, it's fairly like sketchy. There's not great viz. I was wanted to make sure there's no sharks." You got back to the boat and I was just sitting on top of the water waiting. And then Ben's like, "Dive." And I was like, "Oh, dive." Like, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to wait for you to come back.
Yeah.
And then you stayed like there. I think you guys were taking some photos. or
photos
something
and
just
shit, yeah.
Keep
being
an eye for
boaty
them.
and
There are
whatever.
some banging jack photos coming.
There is.
But yeah, I did a drop. Like I had to calm myself down. Did a drop. Was down for a while, and like I was saying to you boys, had like a basically cyclone of Wong just circling me
The Wong tornado.
off that same little cliff.
Will has just
off
pricked
that
up his
same little
ears.
gap.
He's very interested.
But yeah, there was like in that basically Wong-nado. There was 2 fish, and it was weird because like as I sort of like was just creeping along and the tornado was going around me, I got closer to like the rocky bommy of the mushroom, the brain coral, and that crack, and like these 2 big MSPs, I'm assuming, just
pretty sure they
swam
were,
by,
right?
and it was honestly from where I ended up because the viz wasn't that good with all the fish kicking around. By the time like they swam through between me and the actual brain coral, it was like a meter away, if that. And I
Yeah.
lined one up and was just like following it. And it sort of stopped. And I was just like, I'm not 100% on ID. Pretty sure I know what you are, but I'm not going to. And I also was like weirdly like jack conscious too. In my head, I was like, I do not want to shoot anything because I had spangos come through too in
Yeah.
that tornado. And I was just like, I do not want to shoot
That
anything
bommy
and
is
trigger
gonna
anything.
produce every trip, eh?
Got
It's
back to the
legit.
top, calmed myself down, did another drop, had heap of spangos come through. The Wongs had sort of gone around the other side, didn't see the MSPs again. And then from there, I think I would have done like 3 or 4 dives and progressively was just seeing less and less. Like I'd obviously like was spooking them, but was like, I probably could have shot an MSP. Then the next dive, should have probably shot a spango, didn't. Should have shot a trout, didn't.
Yeah.
Then I was like, all right, if another spango comes through, I'll shoot it. Didn't come through. And I was just like, a Wong is almost looking good right now. But I was also like, nah, I'm going to go back to the boat and get stoked with these boys. So it was good.
Yeah, I was fucking pumped. After like, I don't know, it took a while for the hype to build, but I was pumped after it.
That's honestly like, yeah, probably one of my dream fish is a jack, I reckon.
They're few and far between, so I think any jack, like of any size.
Yeah.
That one was 58.
Yeah.
58. So it's respectable. Yeah. Fucking no Tim McDonald.
13
12.
kilo jack out of 40 metres on the
Yeah.
sunny coast or something
Fucking
silly.
Jesus.
We got any other questions?
We do.
Or
a
just
couple.
yours
No.
about your jack?
Did I tell that Jack story? Oh.
People are going to be off the jack story after this. They're not even going to want to see the photos. They'll have heard all about it. They don't stitch up.
Fucking hell. Yeah, it's a good day. I've got to ask that one first. Coolest fish you've shot and deepest dive? Mine would be, I don't know, deepest dive, somewhere between 15 and 20. I'm not a experienced diver or a good diver. I just enjoy it. Coolest fish? Nothing crazy. I've never really gone crazy sports stuff. That definitely have to be that big trout I shot through both eyeballs.
Oh, the island trout.
Yeah.
That stalk sounded like a pretty cool story.
It was like a legit. Brock was like, "We're going to dive this bommy. You can see it there." And there's like, it's like an L-shaped bommy. And he said, "You need to dive in this side, get on your belly, and crawl around the corner." And he said, "There's this big cave underneath it, and you'll get like a heap of fish come out." And he said, "Just sit there and wait, strum your gun rubbers or do something." And he said, "There's normally always one big trout, and I've never shot a trout under 65." Whew. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, righto, fucking hell."
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and it was literally,
Where'd you say
played
this
out
was?
exactly how he explained it. We'll go there one day.
Saturday.
Exactly. Trout? Saturday.
Trout.
Oh, we're going to smack so many trout. And I did exactly what he said, and it just played out exactly like that. Like I literally went down there, crawled around the corner, laid there for like 5 or 10 seconds, strumming my gun rubbers, and there was like wongs and weird shit poking around. And then through the wongs, I could see this fucking trout head, like half peeping me. So I like laid there a bit more, and like fucking,
Peekaboo.
yeah, basically. And then it come all the way out, and I was like, fuck, and I couldn't get a sort of clean shot at it. And it was a decent shot. Don't actually know how far, but it turned all the way back around and started swimming back into the cave. So I was like, fuck, shot it, went straight through one eyeball, out the other eyeball, and literally like if you got that skull and like peel all the meat and skin off it, you wouldn't even know it was shot. Like it went through and didn't touch a fucking thing. And took
Money.
Yeah, so it was basically a fully
Nothing but
physically
net.
functional fish
About 2 eyeballs.
up under a cave with no eyeballs, going ape shit. And we're at Ireland, so like everything, the moment you kick your fins, it's just fucking murk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
silted up.
It was, yeah, so it was pretty fun. But also no
good
reels, so I
fish.
didn't have to fuck around like.
Yeah. I'm pretty similar. I don't really dive deeper than I can like functionally hunt. So I've dived to, a bit over 20, but you're not getting much bottom time. You're not really relaxed. So I tend not to, do those sort of dives really regular. I'm keen to try and push that dive or like huntable depth a little bit more. Probably one of the most memorable fish would have been up on me and a couple other boys. Ayden's brother actually was on that trip. We shot up off Cooktown. We camped on an island up there, and that was a pretty wicked trip up on the ribbons. Last day, we actually had a flasher caught at the back of the boat, so I was at the back on the transom getting the flasher untangled out of the prop, and a couple of really big Spanish came in under it. Got the gun thrown back to me. Ended up shooting what I thought was about a 15-kilo Spanish, but in the really clear water, I'd severely underestimated the size of it. Pretty much spooled me on its first run. At this point, I'm getting towed along after it, yelling out at the boys who are back, a little way over on the reef edge to freestyle after me and come and put a second shot in. We ended up putting about 3 shafts in this Spanish. One of the second shots actually went in behind the head. The shaft exited out the mouth on the shooting line, and the Spanish just snipped it clean off. Lost shaft in like 60 metres of water, gone.
Fuck.
There's reel line everywhere. There's other blokes that I'm trying to make sure don't get tangled up, because I didn't know how much go this fish had. I didn't want it taking off still green and guys tangled in reel line. Eventually got it to the back of the boat, put a gaff into its head and dragged it up, and the second its head cleared the water, I was just like, oh my god, this thing's a dinosaur. Ended up topping it. It was definitely over 30. Biggest Spanish I've ever physically laid my hands on. Probably wouldn't shoot one that big again, just a little bit of a sig risk. But that was probably the most memorable fish. Definitely probably towed me around for the best part of 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, nice.
It's a bit silly.
Yeah. My deepest dive would be, I think I did 22 metres on the watch, but haven't done any more than that. That was on a day out with Fran. We had some some really big tuskies around. We got a couple around 8 kilo, and they just
was
sort
that
of kept getting deeper and
Lucy in the
deeper.
trip that I was telling you about.
Yeah, and it was a good spot. There was big trout. We had this massive trout. It would have been over 1 meter, and then just when they get to that size where they look like they're starting to fall apart, like they look a bit ragged, but they're just monsters. And it was swimming up midway in the water column and stuff. But yeah, coolest fish I've shot. I mean, your trout with the eyeball shot reminded me of a trumpeter that I shot down in Ayden, and I lined it up and shot it. And when I pulled it in, the spear had gone straight through the middle of the trumpeter, which was good. But on the other side of it, there was some bait fish, and the spear had gone straight through one of the little bait fish. The perfect shot too. So there was this innocent little poor bait fish on the other side that I'd just you could not imagine a better shot through it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you shoot some cool fish, but you see some cool stuff too. Like I saw a leopard seal once down in Victoria, which is pretty rare.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
See the video going around of that fella who was like on the beach. I think he'd like probably been at like a party or something. He finds one asleep, thinks it's dead, and goes up and like pokes it, and it just like rears around and is like roaring at him, and he like loses his mind.
Wow.
It went real viral. It was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. No, they are a little bit dangerous. I didn't realise till afterwards, and I did some reading.
They eat
We're in the
other
water with
seals, don't they? And
yeah,
penguins and
seals,
shit.
they do,
penguins,
and they have killed divers before apparently.
Birmingham.
Yeah,
Didn't
this
know
one
that.
I think it was around Warrnambool, so I think it was pretty lost, and hopefully not in the best condition for my sake. But I've also like the nautilus shells, like paper nautilus. I found an alive one of them once diving down around Apollo Bay.
That's cool.
With the little it looked like a squid hanging out the bottom, and
pumping away.
yeah, that was really
sick.
cool. So that sort of jumped into my mind too. But yeah,
Yeah,
good when you see
cool
something.
whale encounters on the jet ski. I remember getting some
Yeah.
videos of you when they're like, 6 feet off the nose of the ski, tail up in the air, like dripping water on you basically, or just come in under you.
Yeah, we had one day on the jet ski. They seemed to be really interested in it. There was a mum and her calf. Fran and I went out. It's probably the same day.
I think
we
it was
got
that
the
huge
Tuskies,
Tusky
I'd
day,
say.
yeah.
And they came up near us, so we stopped the jet ski. And then I think the baby came up near us, and we were like, oh yeah. And then next thing we know, right in front of the jet ski, this big mum whale just comes up out of the water right in front of the jet ski, heading straight towards the jet ski, and it goes down like 5 meters in front of the jet ski and straight under us. And it's one of those things where you have that moment of like, oh, am I safe right now? And you get a little bit of adrenaline, and it makes it a really exciting experience. So that was
I feel like
really
they
cool
come
too.
over just to fuck with you sometimes. Like I've been fishing in the middle of the night here at Bowling Green in maybe 15 meters of water,
Yeah.
chasing finger mark and shit in the middle of the night, pitch fucking black, new moon, nothing, can't see shit,
Yeah.
all the lights off, and like laying there, and like next minute you just hear this right beside the boat. Like out of everywhere you could do it, you did it right beside my boat. You fuck. Like legit, man, thought I died. Scary. Still to this day, one of the most scariest experiences of my fucking life. Like when it's just dead silent.
Solo
and
or
yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Like
that would be scary.
Fucking scary. Last year,
Yeah.
in like August or some shit.
Yeah.
And also when you dive and you hear them, like hear humpbacks.
I love hearing them underwater when the
Oh,
noise like goes
gives
through
me
your
the
chest.
heebie-jeebies.
Some are good singers, some aren't so good. Some sound a bit distressed. You hear them and you're like, gosh, you didn't get the good
It's also
vocal
a weird
cords.
feeling because you're diving and you like can't see them, and there's this noise coming from fucking
It's just,
probably
like in your head.
a long way
bouncing
away.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would be your favourite fish so far, Ayden?
my jackie.
The moo was cool because it was something that I was like, noticeably like set out that I really want to put some time into them. But personally, like last time I was diving, would have been in like probably 18 meters of water, I reckon, which is like deep for me.
It's deep for anybody.
Had those trout where it was like half an hour within the day. It was like that redemption day where I was like,
Is
I
that
need.
the big pinnacle we ended up on?
Yeah, and it
Spot.
was just like I think I was in the water and pretty hungry, and shot a good common trout, took it to the boat. Was just like there's a few trout down there, like it's pretty fishy, and went back next dive, breathed up, and then shot another really good one, and just like was diving flawlessly pretty much for the rest of the day. Like felt really good and confident, sort of thing. So
That was a great start. Pigeon pair of like 55 odd centimetre strawberries thrown
Just
in
like
the boat within
perfect
like
eaters.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like strawberries taste better.
They look pretty.
They
so
look
I think
cool.
I
you
feel
just
like it's just
convince
out of
yourself.
principle. They just look real, yeah.
Compared to like a muddy brown bar cheek from the islands.
Last question. So fucking stupid.
That was a good one.
It's so good.
Who asked it first of all?
No, you'll figure
no.
it out.
Rob playing it.
Who's the biggest inspiration to you spearing wise, and why is it Ayden Doumtsis? Oh fuck! I don't even know how to answer that. I don't even know how to. Because we're gonna
Say.
smack a trout up on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Ayden this Saturday, that'll be the most inspiring.
Yeah, it will be. Oh, I'm so excited.
Nah, to his
Day-to-day
credit, it's pretty
trout.
impressive to like watch a fella that doesn't get out super regularly, but able to like just take bow hunting knowledge and just like look super comfortable, super chilled in the water and just have like that.
No, I'm still fanboy and Jai.
Trans-
for his
yeah.
badass.
Yeah, you say all this, and then it's like I go diving with you two boys, and it's just like masterclass sort of like, and like obviously you
Jai
guys
takes
will look
jet
at
skis
others.
to the reef with jerry cans, gutter stomp sharks.
Sleeps
Fucking-
butt naked on islands.
Yeah, like, the dude's legit, eh? Let's round this
Pretty
thing
wild.
out. That's a fucking
Been a
session.
Good yarn.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Proper. Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is Rennie's fucking send off.
Yeah, a
Heading
bit of
down
a hurrah.
south to
Head down to
do
Mackay.
more sunset cruises. And
We're getting rid of him, clearing room on the boat.
Upgrading. I've heard there's a replacement on the way.
There is. Who is that?
Will just sat up.
Will's keen. Have you got spear gear? Yeah. Yes. Did we know this before?
Have you got a boat?
All right, I'm going to leave. See you, boys. I'm out.
Yeah, don't come back. Yes. Fuck yes. What are you doing Saturday?
Trout?
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
nah, I'll be back.
Oh, yes. We're going to go to that. But we're going to behave.
No drinking ever again.
Waters only.
No, but yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming in. Nice to meet you, Jai. I actually really enjoyed this one. It's been a long time coming, to be honest, because Rennie and I have been toying with the idea of getting at least you two together for a chat for ages. So, any spearing questions and stuff after the potty, let me know, and we'll probably organise the second one, I reckon, because I wouldn't mind tapping into some like crazy shit like dogtooth and
Might have seen one come episode 2.
Mackay
Maybe.
shore dives, bros.
Maybe. Off the break wall.
Yeah.
And then Ayden and I have got bulk memories to make.
We're gonna have to do the Trout Chronicles.
About 10 metres below.
Report from Saturday.
Yes.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks, hey.